All right, let's call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Awesome. I'm sure a sunshine will notice again. Sunshine law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of February 24th, 2025 is available by calling phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in a schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2025-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 7th, 2025. Posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
The members Paul.
Yes.
Piastelli.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes.
LaBarbera.
Present.
Olson.
Yes.
We have Administrator York, Attorney Sobel, Engineer Bordella, and Parks and Rec Director.
Thank you. We're going to jump right into our first workshop. It's an Eagle Scout presentation by Charlie Earn. We have a PowerPoint as well that we're going to pop up onto the TV. Charlie, come on up right in front here. Right there. You're good right there. Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Charlie, good to see you, buddy. How are you? Good, pal. Where do you live in town?
Right, the street right next to Knollwood.
Very cool.
Oh,
Very
hey,
cool.
I'm right here.
Next slide.
Charlie, and I've been a resident of Fairhaven my entire life. Been a scout for several years now, and I've been one step away from achieving Eagle Scout. Project that I would like to do will benefit the wildlife in our town, and it would be something that would benefit places I've spent hours of my childhood in. Main plan is to expand the pollinator garden that is already located on the 3rd Street Trail. It will benefit the town and surrounding wildlife as it will attract more pollinators that will help plants in the surrounding area grow, and it will improve ecosystem health and look of the surrounding area. This is just one of the things that was updated. Where's here? I can just pull it open on my phone. The rough cost, turns out it was changing is a lot lower than that, is actually more 1,000 to 1,300.
Can I ask what changed on there? Like what went down?
The soil, we don't really need the soil.
As I said, it's a lot of soil.
The dirt there is already good enough.
Awesome.
Okay.
Those are just a few pictures, like the proposed area where it is and what one, for example, looks like.
Hey, Charlie, quick question. On the picture on the left with the proposed area, is it, you said it's extending the current pollinator
Yes.
garden? So where is the current pollinator garden to the left?
Yeah,
of
just
the
to the
picture?
left, I think it's like, you can either, here, let me.
Yeah, you can go up there, man. You can
Barely
point,
see
yeah.
You can either barely see right there, you see
Yeah.
this.
Got it.
fencing.
So it goes to the right of the pond. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Very cool. Thank you.
You got this.
Wow, is that what the garden's gonna look like?
Beautiful. You talk about open space tax, Charlie?
I'm sorry. Anything else? Let's go on.
Oh, no.
Charlie, when she brings that up, what do you like about the pollinator garden? Like, why did you pick it?
Like I said earlier, it helps, spaces that are local that I've spent time growing up in and, I just feel it's a great way that I can achieve this requirement.
Very cool.
This is just a basic timeline of everything, how long I think it should take.
Can you go back? Yeah. Acquire funding, you're doing that privately?
Um, what do you mean by?
How, when you say acquire the funding, where are you getting the funding from?
We've had some ideas for fundraisers. That is actually one of the later slides, but I think I did update that. That was one of the slides I updated as well. If you want me to just, read off.
No, if you're getting to
No.
it, it's okay.
No, keep going.
I believe that's actually the next slide.
Okay.
Great.
Funding, finding donors, but that should not really take up too much of it, possibly host event, selling something. I remember concept I was told was selling seeds, so it's on brand, like not the stuff, not like this, we're not gonna use seeds, we're actually buying plants, but like sell like seeds of the types that we're gonna be planting to people to try and get some of that money.
It's a good idea.
Allison, can you go back to slide 6 real quick for me? Charlie, and this is a learning moment for me, is May like when the best time to plant the pollinator garden?
I believe because that's in the spring and it's one of the few weekends I would be available.
You're available and it's in the spring. Fair. All right, cool. And, thank you.
Good job, Charlie.
Any other questions? Charlie? Charlie.
Well, Charlie, I just want to add that I heard Charlie introduce this at the rec committee, which he did a great job there as well. And that he has buy-in from the green team and from a bunch of different groups in town, Third Sheet Trail. So I think that's an important note that he has the support of the local group as well.
I have this, which is a sign that shows, which is already at the one that's there. It shows the plans that you'd like to see.
Yeah,
Charlie, can I ask you one question? In terms of watering the garden, do you have volunteers to help with that?
Yes, volunteers. Gonna have a whole system set up for that.
And I
Yeah, well,
noticed you were using drought-resistant plants that require little maintenance, so that should help.
And well, the watering, it will only be needed for the first summer.
Great.
Charlie, deer, have you guys thought about the deer? I'm sure you have.
Well, there is going to be fencing around it to help with that, like as there is the one already there.
Charlie, I think it looks great from everyone, right? No, thank you for
Best of
doing
luck,
this
Charlie.
and best of luck with the project. Does anyone have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations. Okay, thank you. Our next workshop is our 2025 Fairhaven Farmers Market. I think I see Anna back there and I see all three of them. All right.
it's been a while.
Maggie and- Nice to see you all again.
I have some stuff
Okay.
that maybe a few of us can share. No, I don't have a lot of ink, so. How many do we have here? Good, good.
Wait.
Thank you.
Any one more?
No, we're good. We'll share.
You're welcome.
Here. No.
Well, you weren't kidding, you really.
Oh, wow. We did, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
state names and, Diana 1892 Baton Road.
Maggie Ledman, 53 Lewis. 263 Road.
We are back planning for the 25 season. It's kicking off May 10th. We are the second Saturday of every month, so it's second Saturday every month. So there's no questioning what it is. It's consistent this year. We're here to talk about specifically the conversation that we had last May about liquor and beer sales at the farmer's market. We got approved by council with some stipulations to sell beer. We had a vendor join us, who ultimately had to shutter for other reasons. So they did not come back to the market. But we kind of did a little more research about allowing vendors who sell mead, no wine. Mead is different than wine. There's no vineyards in New Jersey. It'd be different if we were in like Healdsburg, but we're not. So it's beer. One of our current vendors sells mixed drinks, potables. They sell, right now they sell the mixer that they would be able to sell distilled liquor. And then mead. We just had someone reach out to DJ a few weeks ago to inquire about joining the market. So we wanted to really bring this back up again to see if there's any more consideration that we could have. So with that, we did more research and came a little bit more prepared as to what that entails from the ABC. And they have, as you can see, they've made a stipulation for off-premise consumption as a vendor, as a liquor vendor, under their special ruling SR 2021-01. So they would be required to hold those permits, which they all do, because they all go to other farmers markets to sell. And a lot of the back and forth that we had the last time we were here discussing this was about the tastings, about the, who's responsible for keeping track of this, what does it say about the market? And we just want this to be looked at a little differently under this ruling that they've applied to themselves, because this puts the onus on the vendors. It stipulates specifically by category how many ounces they are allowed to, vendors are allowed to serve and patrons are allowed to taste, where they are supposed to be tasting them, if they should be IDing. It absolves the borough, it absolves council from any of these issues that we had no idea this was the case. So, our apologies for coming in unprepared for that. We wanted to come back a little more prepared. We just had a really successful season. A lot of that can be, the credit could be on the weather, which we had nothing to do with, but it was a very popular event. So we want to continue to build. We think that by bringing these groups into it, it would allow more vendors to, look at the market as a really diversified place for businesses to come. So that's kind of what we're thinking. I had a good conversation with Josh about it, and we decided it could be good to lead with a cap on those vendors so that it doesn't oversaturate what the market is right now. It's not going to be a booze fest. It's going to be 3 vendors, hand-picked by us, and make sure that they're following these rules. And we can, with your blessing, try it for at least a season to make sure that nothing gets out of hand. We will obviously, change things. If it all of a sudden becomes something crazy, we would change it. We did speak to Chief. Is he here? Sorry to be on the spot. Chief, it's something that the police will be a part of as they're at the market the entire time. So, one of the last times we were here, it was one of the things that was brought up was, well, you said no dogs, and we saw dogs, and then there were no dogs. We're kind of keeping things going as we're building the plane as we're flying it, but I think we're really responsive when those things come into play, and we just want the opportunity to bring better vendors into the market, so.
My question's 3 vendors allowed per season. Is that gonna be 3 vendors at every market? Is that probably the way that you look at it? Or, okay.
Yeah.
And is there a plan, other markets that do this, someone gets a sample, do they get a stamp on their hand or something to prevent?
Yeah, I think if someone keeps coming back 4 or 5 times, the vendor will be like, we're good here.
I think you're saying.
It really is at their discretion. They have the ability to card, they have the ability, you do the tastings at the booth, and then you can buy a 6-pack and keep walking. If people keep going back, I mean, like we've said since the beginning, the vendors are the ones that know this a lot better than we really do, so.
Before other questions, Andrew, do you see concerns or no?
I mean, I'll work with, I'm glad you guys are early, so we can work through some of the issues that I obviously have. One of the things of concern is, I don't know if, when the last time you guys had the discussion, I don't believe you guys spoke about or approved that there would be tastings. I thought it was gonna be packaged goods and then they move
Yeah, the
on.
last
That's-
time I
that-
went,
that's what we did
it was
last
not-
Oh, so my memory is good.
Yeah. Correct. And that's
Alright.
what we're asking.
Okay.
really, is the stamp.
Got it.
It's a bit of a deal breaker for people to come and just sell without, especially mead. I mean, I don't know what mead is.
I don't even know.
Exactly, so it would be beneficial to the business if you allow people to taste.
Like the
And
food people.
Yeah.
give samples, and then
Right.
People buy the food, like this happens at farmers markets everywhere, so we're just asking for it to kind of be the standard.
a lot of the vendors sell at Red Bank, they're in Atlantic Highlands, so it's really, I mean, unless Rumson does get their act together, which we've heard that the market may happen there. It would be us probably without those types of.
Are you aware of any incidents? Can I ask a question? Are you aware of any troublesome outbreaks or incidents in other communities that have, yeah? And I think one of the built-in controls here is the farmers market is from 9 to 12. And I'm personally comfortable trying it as a pilot, a season flies by, you guys do a really good job, I know you're all out there, and it's very well run, so it's not as though we set out stalls, talk to your vendors and walk away.
That'd be great.
I know that you're there. And so I'm very mindful of everything, including dogs. And certainly if anything were to go awry, which I just don't see happening. I think the reason the state law allows for it is because there's some built-in economics to this, so I'm
very
comfortable giving it a try.
Yeah, it's quite controlled. I think
Right.
that the vendors, they see it week in and week out, so they're the ones that really know how to handle the situation. And it's a packaged good, so then they sell it, it's not opened,
Mhm.
it's sold and they go.
When's the first market again?
Anytime.
What is a plenary license? Plenary? That's a category of.
Yeah, it must be some like specific winery. I don't know what what.
Plenary is our liquor license, like Navu has a plenary.
Okay.
I have a question. I think it's really actually more for Andrew.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm just on the Attorney General's website, just trying to.
So I know you said it absolves us from anything legal, but do they have to get any other permits from us to have alcohol in that space?
I believe Allison, right, didn't we contact the
The
ABC?
ABC does the permitting for this.
Right,
Mhm.
You
This is
can
not something-
deny it if
yeah.
you're not comfortable with it, as you did last, or you can let it go, and if there's some incident that you don't agree with, like gets back to you that you're concerned about, you can have the ABC revoke that
Got it.
portion of the.
But they have to go to
license.
ABC to get it.
It's directly through ABC.
Okay.
I have the same question as Councilwoman Cole, but for the chief, have you heard in the other communities from talking with other police chiefs?
No, because you
Any-
can't take it, you can walk around, they have to taste and give it a cup after they come from Borough. So if you fix one, I don't see any problem with that, I haven't heard any problem.
You haven't heard of the chief of Red Bank or anything?
Not at all.
Yeah, okay, good.
Does, ABC gives a permit. Is it a permit for the season? How does that work?
Yes,
So. I'm just throwing it out an idea. What if we were to approve it for the first market, see how it goes? And they call it Cinco de Mayo market, May 10th. See how it goes. Assuming there's no problems, we could then just extend them through the rest of the year. Does that create a problem with the permitting with ABC where they have to go back to ABC a second time?
no, because we would have, ABC would issue it, you would allow it, and then you could go on the next meeting and revoke it.
Yeah, but, and also, I just have to say though, my guess is that it might be a challenge for the vendors though,
Yeah.
because you want them to commit for the
You want to commit for
season.
the whole year?
So then
And
if
you don't
we're
think
just
they do it?
saying, like,
You don't think they do that?
you can try it.
We offer discounted, if they
Yeah.
pay up front, it's better for them financially for the fees, so
Yeah,
all in, it also it's just easier for everyone. There's a health certificate that's involved with the county health commission, so there's a few different logistical things. I mean, if that's what it takes, I'm sure they would understand.
I also sign off on it and we can revoke that, no problem.
yeah.
Yeah. So we have,
This,
You
this-
sign off-
this goes directly through ABC, that doesn't go through us at all.
We can revoke.
But we can revoke it, but we don't sign off, it just,
Yeah.
they apply, ABC has so many, a week or two to consider it, unless they hear differently from us.
right, so I guess I hear that, but I also, we revoke it, you have some sort of agreement with the vendor that now you have an issue with.
We refund them the remainder, the balance.
Anyone else?
I have a few questions. Okay, Chris.
Just was gonna say, I'm fully supportive. I think the farmer's market has done a tremendous amount of greatness, for lack of a better term, for the community, and I'd love to see us build upon it. So let us know what you need. I think it's great.
I agree, full support, just have some questions. Are your contracts with the vendors specific to these three categories gonna change? Like, is there additional insurances required? Are you gonna put that they have to be compliant with state
Yeah,
permits? Like,
they carry this. This is not us like leveling it on. If they come to us, they have to carry this.
right, so what I'm asking is how are you gonna verify that, right? I'm not trying to be funny,
No,
right,
no,
but like,
I agree.
gonna get the permits, gonna look at them, do they have to put them out on their like booth so people walk by?
I don't know if they have to, that's not something that
So
we
like,
would require,
the
but
health inspector, he shows up and checks everything for all of them. The
Okay,
ABC, the onus is on them. They don't have to show up, but they can, and they can ask,
check,
but so we won't do that.
copy that, okay. So
we can
then,
require them to send us the confirmed permits.
Highly-
We
highly
have
recommend
all
that.
of that for all of
Yeah.
our vendors. anyway.
Chief, this might be a question for you, right? Ensuring proper age and carding and underage drinking, who's responsible to enforce that?
The vendor.
Per
So-
this, the vendor, per SR
So they'll get in trouble.
2101.
So there is absolutely zero oversight, zero, that both the borough and, not you guys are on the 501c3, forgive me,
C4.
501c4, there's absolutely zero oversight that the borough or they have to worry about whatsoever.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay,
Well,
I find that,
wait,
Until
no,
there's a
no,
problem,
if the
that happens.
borough wouldn't have oversight if it's what is proposed by the farmer's market. However, as far as liability, that comes a different
well, I'm
question.
talking enforcement of compliance, right? I'm talking enforcement of
I mean-
following the rules, like, to say
Well,
that.
listen, if the police are always at farmer's market,
We pay them.
they have to,
Yeah, there's something
they're gonna have to go around, and if there's some,
I just wanna protect, obviously, you guys, cause you guys are crushing it, right? And I wanna protect the borough, and to say that, like, zero oversight doesn't. To me, that just doesn't pass the sniff test when you look at any really private or public sector contract, right? Some onus of liability, if these vendors don't comply, there is some onus that falls back.
ABC.
So ABC then takes care of.
They're signing off to the ABC
Okay.
that they're gonna be in compliance with SR.
I haven't had all the experience role, but based on my experience, there's never a situation where, and you're friends until you're not, and you're friends until a situation comes up, right? So I've never been part of a contract where the owners have full,
We live in a litigious society. I think that's why I was saying the stamp. I don't think that most people are gonna do this, but in reading this, I mean, they could technically drink 12 ounces of beer. They could go to the next spot and they could drink 6 ounces of wine. And then they can go get 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. And it's all legal, and they get in their car and something happens, and they're gonna say, well, the borough signed off on it.
I'm not sure that's enough to be legally drunk.
I don't think you need to be legally drunk. You have alcohol in your system and
No, you
you,
do have to
I think
have
it all
certain-
depends on the person, you
Yeah.
know, don't, I mean,
Yeah,
one person, I mean, you might not be legally drunk, you might get somebody who can't handle
So-
their alcohol and,
It's true.
half their size,
So-
and they are.
so real quick, I just wanna bring it back, right? I don't wanna like argue like SR 2020-01. What I'm gonna ask our lawyer is if we can please ensure that we've exhausted where liability exists.
Yeah.
Should there be an incident, both for them as a C4 corp and both for us as the borough.
I will do my best to limit the liability.
Yeah, it's not gonna be
If something
100%.
happens, we're getting sued.
100%.
I can pretty much
That would be the
guarantee
case
that.
if someone was allergic to cheese and they ate cheese, like, You know, that's the case with it. We're talking about alcohol, but it could be anything at the farmer's market.
I guess my question is then,
That's,
How?
I mean, you drink, no, but if you got cheese, you're only harming
But
yourself,
come on,
you know?
is this an extent, are we applying this to all Fairhaven events? Because I've been to Fairhaven.
Yeah.
Like,
Just be honest,
this
those people can get in
is
there.
a nine.
We do have this same discussion, for Fairhaven Day, and I believe that we check the IDs.
But they're
at Fairhaven
checking
Day,
it.
and we fence in the location where you're supposed to
They
consume
can't leave
alcohol.
the vendor
This is
location.
more of a
They can
road.
drive home.
This stipulates.
Oh, no,
must-
it surely should
you
not be
must
driving
take
home.
this- You must take this sample in front of a vendor. I mean,
Right.
we're not tapping kegs at this
No,
farmer's
no.
market.
please don't misconstrue my
I'm
comment.
not misconstruing, I just want this to be equitable across every event. in this
100%,
town.
right? The primary difference here, though, compared to Fairhaven Day, is you are signing individual contracts with individual vendors, right? And so adding a contract between a business and a 501c4, and then hinging the 501c4 with the borough adds a level of complexity where we just need to ensure that the liability is
isn't
addressed.
that Fairhaven too? though? Fairhaven, it would be the same thing, because it's
Foundation.
Foundation of Fairhaven, they're signing contracts with each vendor shop is, yeah, the brewers are signing contracts with Fairhaven, Foundation of Fairhaven, who is then.
I'll make the
linked-
same statement with Fairhaven
So
Day.
it-
All I'm
but
saying
It
is,
is similar what she's saying.
100%. All I'm saying is I want to make sure the liability is reduced, so we don't get ourselves in hot
Only
water.
if you
Well-
sold up not ours, but another one that serves beer samples, it's.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all
it's not-
lame.
I mean, I get that you have to be concerned about the liability, but
Wait, can I ask a question? So, chief, if one of your guys, girl, women, go to, sees that someone seems like they're underage and they're drinking,
Absolutely, stop them.
they stop them, and then that vendor gets in trouble.
That's correct. If that vendor certainly, they'll just go to the liquor store.
Depends if they have a fake ID.
Okay. Does this require a motion?
Yes, we would need a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Yes.
Are you moving, you're staying on Willow Street, correct? It's not gonna be in the parks or anything, because then we'd have.
Wait,
to
we're
wait.
making a motion to approve it right now?
That's what we're on the
I
agenda.
would be more comfortable if we checked out the
Yes,
liability.
absolutely.
Okay,
I will
So-
highly advise you to not pass a motion right now.
well, it can be conditioned upon what your findings.
I have to review their insurance policy, and I have to
Okay.
button this up for us. I mean, you know.
It sounds, just from where I'm sitting, it sounds like everyone's sort
It
of in
seems like
favor of
every
it.
quarter, just let me do.
But you gotta do some due diligence. I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting, assuming there's no issues to vote on. If there are issues, I'll workshop it so we can listen. Good?
Our next meeting is.
Thanks.
What- Oh, and the next meeting is at NOLA during the day.
1:30.
1:30.
I do.
So if for some reason, if for some reason it needs a workshop and you can't make the meeting and I need to push it another meeting, we'll have that discussion. All right?
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have discussion workshop on Love Where You Live Day. Which we're talking about April 27th, Kelly. And thank you to all the scouts, especially you,
Yes.
Charlie, and the other Charlie too.
Do you want to give them a minute just to leave so they're not
Sure.
distracted? Just
Let
give it.
them,
Thanks, Charlie.
Good job. Thanks, Charlie. Good job, bud.
Hi, Kelly Flanagan, 223 Third Street. Interested in one fifteen that. So we are just seeking council's approval for Love Where You Live Day. Again, fourth annual will be taking place on Sunday, April 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. That's what we're asking for a proposal. And we would like to do it in front of or nearby McCarter Park and Willow Street as well in front of the school, since that's become associated as a town meeting spot with the success of the Fairhaven Farmers Market. We are seeking for that to be the location for this year, so we can have in the street as well as on the adjacent park. We've spoken with Chief McGovern, who, the Fairhaven PD is supportive of our, decision. Depending on what we've come back with, whether the closure of that, of the street. Also, we'd reach out to homeowners as well to make sure they're all on board with this and be, sensitive to that inconvenience. Or if it's solely gonna be on the park as well, but, he said they'll support and provide police officers and barricades for that event.
Also coordinated with DPW.
Yes, so the
Yes.
thing that we were also asking and seeking for, and we've been in discussion with Chris, Nick, and, as well, is because we were looking for tables and chairs for DPW, trash recycling, and I believe that is it. We just, we're also, last year we had Dos Benditos there for food. We just want to make sure that, you know, with everything with town, if we were to have another food vendor there and invite them back again, if that's okay with the town as well. So if there's any insurance or anything liable, you know, for the food.
Well, Allison, do we have to do that? We need to get a license, right? So
Temporary
they-
food license
Temporary.
to be off.
So they need to apply for that or no?
Yeah.
And the tables and all that stuff, you wanna put on Willow Street or you wanna put it in the park?
So depending, we would like, depending on how many vendors we have that's committed, we would like to have some on the street. We're, getting the Monmouth, hope to get some of the Monmouth Conservation Fund, Foundation, their band, their education conservation band as well. We've had the Monmouth County Parks and their band, so we thought it would be good to have some presence on the street as well, since we also are encouraging and promoting bike riding. Since the food as well, can set up some tables right there, and they have a food truck, so that would be good for that. And we would do some tables on the street and some just kind of nearby that path, along the path in McCarter Park.
Mhm.
So, the issue would be of just, you know, the tables and the chairs and.
Is that Earth Day?
It is the culmination of Earth Day, that's Earth Week. So, thought that would be a good highlight. We're doing some school work with the pollinator garden in front of Sickle School, working with the schools, so that'd be a good tie-in as well. We planted some trees there last year that the shade tree, wanted to highlight and also do a big tree, like a tree hunt.
Yeah, the Shade Tree Commission has discussed some sort of scavenger hunt or something about tagging the trees in the park. It could be kind of fun.
And Kelly also spoke with Chief, right, about potentially shutting down Willow if it makes
Yes.
sense.
Mhm.
So just,
Yeah, he
that's a
said he
possibility.
would have barricades on both ends as well. It's just also a very visible location site too. It's right centrally located to town. You've got access to parking spots, you know, as well, so.
Well, you need a new playground.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it would be good for rec, rec could have a
Right.
table there to showcase the new playground. I mean, obviously I support you guys because I'm a big fan. But the only question I had was just, I know we emphasize for people, we try to get people to ride their bikes, but if there did need some parking for vendor parking, I would just be aware of maybe keeping some of the street available to parking, just so that they have somewhere to park, because there's
Well, we
not.
want to all part of that where the school is like.
So you have that parking beforehand?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we would have, we block pretty much the same way we do the.
Yeah, because I know the
Yeah,
vendors
if you,
generally have
if you
cars.
decide to approve it, then we'll take care.
I love it. I mean, I think it's great that we're highlighting like another of our open spaces and another resource that we have in town.
And we've spoken with Farmers Market as well. They're very much in support. It will also just highlight, we could promote the schedule of upcoming farmers markets as well.
Just one question I have, I know I've reached out, you know, you and I have been in email
Yes.
conversations back and forth, so Nick Porchinsky is also in the loop on this as well as far as DPW involvement. Just one question, who's be paying for DPW overtime, PD overtime? for that?
Well, that's the question. You know, this is our fourth year we've done it. We hope that we get support from the borough. You know, last year we had an issue, we just hope that, I know it's the tables and chairs that are the big issue.
Yeah.
Rich, do you remember with the new contract with DPW, what days they had? Remember, because originally they were taking comp time versus overtime?
Specific to events, but I don't know if it called out number of events.
Yeah,
or it was
can't remember.
geared towards like
Couldn't
various
get
days.
tables and chairs from Sickles?
You'd have to ask the school, and then that also, the school would need to make sure somebody's on staff on a Sunday.
So the reason I asked about Earth Day, and this is probably. Not gonna happen, but was there any thought to doing on the same day as the first farmer's market to drive? Attendees into the park for
Right.
both things at the same time, and then we already have people working?
Yeah.
I'm not looking to push them on you or you on them, I was just trying to figure out, right,
We had a couple conflicts with.
Okay.
some-
Scheduling.
you thought about it,
We
no?
did, we did, totally did.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of the few, if, and correct me, I don't know that there's a budget for the green team.
There is a
to-
budget.
There's a little, what is, do we have enough?
It's under the environmental commission, but there's definitely a budget. Is it 2,000, I think?
It
So-
sounds about right,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
No, I think that one.
Is it a little?
So this is like
It's a little.
Parks and Rec paying DPW and PD because Green Team is. Well, Green Team is a piece of government, as is Parks and Rec. I was just trying to clarify exactly how those funds would move or what that would even look like. So the Parks and Rec Department is a piece of government, so is the Green Team and the Environmental Commission.
Okay, but they each have their own budget, right? So.
Well, that's what I kind of was asking, because look, for years, there was no money, you know, the years that I was liaising, so, nor would I know, even if there was a budget, technically, how government would move money from one department to another. It seems not beneficial, but I would defer to our borough administrator.
I mean,
on that.
Nancy.
Why would we move it? I don't
Nancy's
understand.
Well, I don't think we would.
Nancy's-
She's saying to pay, I guess. to
Nancy's
pay.
here,
Because,
Okay.
yeah.
What we can do is,
Name and address.
if we could charge the fund, we could charge the cost to their budget.
The green team budget line, yeah.
I'll leave that to the staff. See
But
what-
that's something that
be
that the
amenable to
environmental
that?
commission or the green team have to, needs to understand that their funds are going towards that.
And how much, do you know ballpark what that might be?
It
Yeah,
will
what-
depend on the number of hours.
I think it's $75 for 20 trash cans in the fee schedule, 75, way more than you would ever need.
Right, and
No,
that,
it's more the.
Tables.
It's more the.
The staff.
That's staff.
The staff,
Yeah,
time.
so
Because
if,
Maybe we can figure it out.
if you're gonna do it on Willow Street, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, then you would need a police
And
officer.
I will, I'm just gonna schedule for that working, because we have guys working, on it,
Okay.
so that's, right now, there's no cost.
Okay.
It is directly for the borough,
This-
part of the borough, so it's not.
It's a Saturday,
it's a
Sunday,
So really the cost would be, I guess, for the table and chairs, but, are you able to put it out? Right, do you know, so are you able to maybe put it out on Friday and pick up on Monday? I don't
That's
know.
what they were doing at Bicentennial Hall,
Yeah.
the thing was we had inside to keep them. Right. Oh, if we put tarp, I don't know.
So I think, so real quick, right, I wanna bucket two things, right, the approval. And consensus on holding Love Where You Live Day on Willow Street. The second piece that we're talking about are the two funding components. From what Chief said, there's no cost from police perspective. We have an open question on the DPW contract. If this is one of those things that is gonna be covered by funds or by comp time. I think we need to answer that before we can speculate any further. So I'd like,
Sunday it wouldn't. I don't.
the Teamsters I'm fuzzy on it.
So it's special events. That they are allowed to, they get double time. And this would be a special event.
Yeah, again, I'm still fuzzy because I remember, so I think if we separate, one is support of the event, and two, it sounds like we need to get some more information on the cost aspect of it, and I think we can resolve the cost aspect of it.
I would just look to our staff for that information, not the volunteers.
1000%,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, Kelly and Chris have been communicating for the last 6 weeks on this, right? So, and so is Nick Krasinski and Chief, so I'd like to separate the two. And if something significant from finance comes up, which I don't foresee, we'll make sure to engage with finance committee and Nancy, et cetera, and address it accordingly.
I'm on board with that plan. Yes. So, do we need a motion?
I think we need a motion to approve the day and the date. And the location, yeah,
Motion to approve the day, the date, the location.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to April 27th. All right, next up, we have a workshop on the proposed open space tax, Borough Council President Koch and our CFO Nancy Britton. Great. I don't think I've ever said your last name. Brennan.
Did you want to speak?
Let's put the PowerPoint up. You can stand up. Yeah, sure. Right.
I'm not gonna stand that. Okay.
No. You don't want me to hold it.
All right, so, Councilwoman Koch came to me and wanted to talk about open space tax and her interest in potentially pursuing it. So we put together some information. Fairhaven open space. We go to the next slide.
Good job, Allison.
I got you.
It's not working now.
So open space, how can we protect and maintain the open space that currently exists in Fairhaven?
Allison, you can just, yeah.
Yeah. So before we get into where we want to protect, what is open space? So open space is any underdeveloped areas with no or few buildings, think parks. Parks or public areas designated as such by local government, public property that it has been improved or partially developed but is currently underutilized. Sports fields are considered open space in New Jersey since they are used for recreation. And since this was created, I did come to realize that places like Bick Hall are also, because it's historic preservation, it also comes under open space. So you can read, I can read them for you, but you can read, those are all of the areas that we have that will be, we would be able to spend open space funds to maintain and improve.
And I do have Bicentennial Hall on there.
Yep.
And Memorial Park. Yes.
Oh, well, and we can add Memorial Park. Yeah.
Why, and that's based on like a definition, is it the
Yes.
definition black, like very clear what falls in the category and what falls out?
It's actually pretty wide, because anything, so all of these, there's either a field, it's definitely open space, natural area, McCarter Pond, McCarter Park, it's a recreational field. So any of that will fit into open space. Anything that's not being used for like a business.
I'm sorry, can I just make a recommendation that Nancy gets through this and then we ask some questions?
Okay.
Is that-
Sure.
I just want to make sure we get it.
So why open space matters, that's really small and I can't read it. Provides recreational opportunities for all residents, preserves history, Bicentennial Hall, enhances the beauty of our town, reduces noise and air population, stormwater management, which we all know is huge, maintains and improves quality of life. And, you know, I know this talk, we mentioned this in the first one, recreation for all residents, but it really is all residents. You know, somebody who is a little bit older, not able to get around so much, they can still go walk the bird sanctuary and, you know, be part of nature, walk Third Street Trail, and, you know, obviously the parks for the kids. So really from a very young age to a very old age, Fairhaven has wonderful open spaces that really provide access to the entire community. Thank you very much. I just need my glasses. Okay. So local financing, there's a couple of ways that we can handle our open space needs. We can bonds or dedicated taxes, so dedicated tax would be an open space tax. In the past, we have adopted these measures, says an unprecedented numbers, but let's just talk about some realistic, you know, examples. Open space, we were able to get $250,000 towards the purchase of 21 Fairhaven. What are we gonna blank? 14. Yes, the waterfront, Baton, Grange and Hants, we got, I wanna say 500,000 towards that cost. Yeah, we're gonna be able to build the new park that we want. It's part of open space, I believe. So all of, like, there's funding out there. However, those all come with restrictions specific to the projects that the money is for. We would have to go through a ballot measure to create open space trust funds, which has been particularly popular. 440 out of 562 municipalities, which is nearly 80%, have voted yes by ballot by voters in the past 30 years to approve an open space tax. And some of our local neighbors would be Little Silver, Shrewsbury, Red Bank, Oceanport, Middletown, Tinton Falls, have all passed an open space tax. And I can speak from, experience in Tinton Falls. Introducing that tax, we had a tract of land off of, Riverdale, close to Colts Neck, that just sort of sat there. Really no improvements on it. They used some open space funds to improve it. There's soccer fields, there's walking trails, there's, a small playground for the kids. Same thing with the soccer, complex on Sycamore. There's new softball fields back there. All of that has come from the town's open space tax. So it's really helping my town. So, not to bring up Tinton Falls, there we are. What are some of the benefits to Fairhaven? We can convert unused parcels of land to green space, for example, the Third Street Trail.
You're on a different slide. Don't mean to interrupt, but I just don't see that slide.
Next slide. Restore forest, meadows, woodlands, and waterways, so the natural area, and any other place that might fit. Increase biodiversity, mitigate flooding, fund parks and recreational fields, upgrades and maintenance, preserve historical structures. And the residents would dictate the funding priorities. So they would have to agree to do this. Here are some numbers for you number people. So we gave you, next slide, please, Allison. We gave you a breakdown of a half a penny, and a penny and a half. So the average that I've seen is usually about a penny and a half. There are some towns that have up to a 6 cent tax. So this tax is based on the 2025 net valuation taxable. So that's all the property in the borough of, it's a really large number, $2,753,215,206. So that would bring in a half a penny for the first year, approximately $138,000. And you can see the rest from there. Now, how would this affect our residents? So the average residential increase, residential assessment of we'll say 1.3 round numbers. The increase would be, a penny would be $66.43 for the year. $132.85 for a full penny and $199.28 for a penny and a half. See, that's what I'm doing. I didn't know.
It's
you had
every other page,
slides.
so I was going.
Sorry, it's a little confusing to do both. So ballot measures give voters a direct opportunity to make judgments on the amount and purposes of municipal spending for land conservation. They represent a powerful way to give voters the chance to weigh in on their community's future. And then if the governing body is in agreement to pursue just looking into it, there's no commitment whatsoever, just looking into it. With approval, we would send out a survey to the residents, plan at least 2 open houses, events.
Last slide, Allison.
Sorry. Plan at least 2 open house events to obtain feedback, workshop with the council as often as you need, and then if at the end, the council agrees that we've gotten enough feedback and they feel it's something they want to move forward to, a resolution to approve the referendum. Sorry, that was messy.
I want to add one thing, which I didn't have a chance to put in the slides, but I've spoken with several community groups. Sean Bailey texted me today and said the Environmental Commission is very much interested in participating in this discussion and being part of the plan. The Harding Bird Sanctuary, the Beautification Committee. I believe, Tracy, I think you told me the Green Team is interested. So there appears to be a great deal of support in our community organizations for this type of approach to revenue.
So what I would like to say with my CFO hat on is our budget's tight. Right, we all know that. But we do have these beautiful natural areas that we want to maintain and 21 Fairhaven Road that we want to improve. And even if we get grants for these things, we still need to maintain them as the time goes on. And one of the best ways to do that is through an open space tax. An open space tax would come into the borough, it would immediately go into a trust fund, and the only thing that it can be used for is open space expenses. So that could possibly be one of our DPW workers who it just works on the parks, part of his salary could come out of there. some of the supplies for the parks could come there, but more importantly is we'd be able to have some funds to do things with our, things that residents have expressed interest in, and especially in the last year, we would have some funds to be able to help get these things off the ground, get these projects that they really want to see happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments?
Yeah, one of the things that I have several thoughts about all of this, and I should start by thanking Betsy and Nancy for your help and initiating a conversation. 'Cause I imagine this might be something we come back to more than once, but I think it's really good we're talking about it. One of the things I know when I think about our inventory of open space is when it falls into a state of neglect, that downward spiral happens quickly. It multiplies upon itself, and before you know it, it feels like it's a place where people are gonna dump, and we get mosquitoes, and we have lots of invasives to compete with. And so what, if not for invasives and neglect, it would be an amenity and something beautiful to look at and participate in and commune with. So I see us struggle with the funding to plan and design just to prepare a grant application. Because I know we have a funding partner with the county, and we're really good at getting those funds. And they're fully committed to Fairhaven and every other municipality. So, but we still have to meet the match. And just to apply, we still have to hire the professionals, prepare the drawings and do the community outreach and get the buy-in. And, all of those soft costs, we struggle to find the money to do that. So even though the grant money's out there, we still have expenses just to secure that grant money. And this fund would really help provide that.
Well, and you could use it for matching.
Exactly,
For
yeah.
a grant.
I'm sorry if I didn't say that clearly. Yeah, it would help
Just
provide
making sure.
the
everybody understands
application
that.
is a competitive application, is well prepared. And we could afford it if we had something like this. I am cautious about adding any kind of tax or assessment. Our residents pay a lot in taxes, and I do recognize our budget constraints as well. I know the community loves these natural resources, so.
Well, that's the beauty of the open space taxes. It's determined by a referendum, which is determined.
Exactly.
The residents are saying yes or no?
So, and I'm not really addressing my comments just to you, Nancy. This is me representing the community, so really for everyone to hear. I would like to suggest, if the council wants to continue talking about this with the community, that it would be a good idea to maybe even have this slideshow available for those other boards, commissions, and any committees that want to participate, whether that happens at the open house or at their meeting dates.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to help and attend or do whatever I can. I'm very interested in hearing what the community thinks about it. My last thought I wanted to share was, I think the timing is important if we did decide to go ahead with something like this. And I think there should be a carve out for commercial properties, of which we do not have very many. But for commercial property owners who don't live here, it would be like taxation without representation, because they're not even able to vote on it.
I
But
don't know if that's possible.
yeah, of course it is. So we would have to look at two things, and if they're either a property owner who doesn't live here, or they're a property owner that does live here, in which case they're gonna be paying the assessment as a private property owner, a residential property owner, instead of getting a double assessment on commercial and their private home. There's no way for them to get twice the enjoyment, so it would seem unfair for them to pay twice the assessment. But I think that helps to also give us plenty of rateable base. There's a very limited number of properties in the commercial area. So food for thought. That's just my 2 cents for now.
I have a handful of questions. Just run them as we
Do
went.
my best to answer.
No, I appreciate it, and we might not be able to answer all these, and if we can't today, that's okay. Who is the ultimate body that decides what is considered open space?
As far as in the borough or in the ether?
in the ether that
I
governs what
believe
the
it's the
Bertha did?
state. I
Okay.
believe there's an organization in the state that determines that.
And then who maintains the list and how are items added and removed? Like, is there a list, and if you wanna add stuff on, you have to go through a process to make sure it meets a certain criteria? If you wanna take stuff off, do you have to make a justification as to why?
That's a really good question, and so what I did read as far as open space, I didn't read anything about having to provide anybody a list.
Okay,
So it's on us.
Are you talking
See
about
it
the
in there.
Rossi?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
no, I'm
No.
talking about the second PowerPoint slide that showed every item that was considered open space, like, that's a list,
So
right?
like, how can we?
Well, that's.
How do we spend the
so
money? What
That
can
was
we-
taken from from an open space document about, and that's what, but I don't remember seeing that we had to provide them a list of our open space.
Check, understood. Skip that question. Two-part question. So out of those, and this might be data you can send us, for the 450 plus towns that have done it the last 30 years.
Mhm.
Do we know when they did it and what their rate of increase in the tax has been? Right,
I
so
can get that information.
do you mind passing that out? It'd be good just to see where they started and where they currently are and over the time period that was. When we receive the funds, what is the process to prioritize the use of funds?
That would be, governing body would determine that.
Okay,
Our priorities.
The governing body at the time.
right, okay.
Would determine that, yes.
Got it. Do you know our current expenses as of today that we spend on what would be considered open space?
It's tough to quantify that, Drew, because so part of it is personnel. And I don't really know the exact amount of time that, one person spends at a park. I can try and see if Nick can provide that to me. And as far as, the parks and all that, we do have our budgets. But some of the budget stuff I could do my best to try and get that
Yeah.
number for you, but it's not, we don't have something that, pulls everything in and says, this is for our park.
Totally get it, right? And the reason I'm asking this is at the beginning of the conversation, right, you start off with that the budget's tight.
Mhm.
So in theory, right, this would create room specific to open space based on the additional tax that we would levy,
Yes, and
a perceived room.
a perceived, because the way I envision an open space tax is to improve what we have, because, but this is me.
I just want to stop it here though. Not to get too confrontational here though.
No, that's
You
fine.
should be presenting the fact it's Betsy's job here to influence
Okay.
as far as the open space tax itself.
Okay.
Betsy should be influencing, or people that are in favor of it should be influencing. You should be giving the facts of what the open space tax is. And if he asks a question as far as it helps, would that move stuff outside of cap? You would say, yes, that moves stuff outside of cap.
Can I then weigh in? Because I was gonna kind of, just to answer that.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I see what you're saying, like wiggle room, it does give us a little bit, but there's a lot of things that we're not maintaining now. And like, invasives, and this would give us a chance to tackle stormwater management a lot better and lower flooding. So in my mind, kind of what she was saying, it's more, gives us money that we would never have in the
Totally
budget
agree.
and will never probably have. in the
The
budget.
reason, just to put a fine tooth on it, right, is just because we add 140 grand, right?
Mhm.
The process to prioritize it, the soft costs and all the
Mhm.
professionals I need, that doesn't magically get resolved right away, right? That it's still a question of how do you prioritize the funds? Where do you focus on? And the big, like, if I saw Fourth Creek on there, I mean, we could spend an absorbent amount of money on Fourth Creek
Oh, yeah.
alone, so I just,
But I think that goes back to priorities.
100%, right, yeah.
So it's the
a
council
small-
that prioritizes.
Yeah.
It's the council in that specific governing body year that
Yes.
councils it,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But there, however, the master plan is a guiding document. If we were to, one of the outstanding items called for the master plan is the conservation element. So
Sure.
that would provide that sort of roadmap that would help. the
It would
government
provide
prioritize.
guidance, but it doesn't say how the governing body should vote or
Right.
shouldn't vote, right?
And this could pay for workshops.
100%. Both.
Bringing the community and.
It's
100% agreement.
Underwrite that young man's.
Mhm.
Totally, yep, totally get it.
Project.
But even
Mhm.
prioritizing the Eagle Scout project versus something else, right? That's gonna be discussion and whatnot. My last question is, with the 450 plus towns, what lessons learned, if any, did we get from them on implementation of it? Would they Did they say they would have done things differently? Did they come in at a half a penny and it wasn't enough? Like, do anyone have buyer's remorse, right? Like saying we should have never did it, right? Like, I'm not saying that that's, but I'm just, it'd be great to learn lessons learned. It's nice to know that the innovation premium for an open space tax here is minimum, given that 450 out of 600 times did it.
I've spoken to Shrewsbury, Oceanport, Little Silver, and Red Bank, all of which have an open space tax, and they have all said, not to the point that you're driving, lessons learned, but they've all said it's had a tremendous effect on their budget. It's opened up their budget a little bit, but more importantly, they're attacking projects that they could never have afforded.
Yeah.
And one of the projects I'm thinking is 21 Fairhaven Road.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no money set aside for that, and it's,
No,
Our hand.
there's 980 grand set aside for Fairhaven Road.
Just a point of fact
Yeah, but
for,
isn't that?
for that, the funds that are available, the funds that are currently set aside, 20-foot Fairhaven Road, based on the ordinance, they are only good for the purchase and the preparation of the property.
Site stabilization.
Nothing beyond grading and seeding and improvement.
yeah.
Check, that's
And
based
if
on
it's
the.
passed, it won't be terrible, but it does provide funds for that.
I'm good with my questions, thanks.
Questions, Mike?
No, I mean, I'm pretty well versed on this. I do see the benefits and I personally think that it's great to offer it to the residents to vote on it because ultimately it's them who's gonna be paying for it. So, and it just seems like with so many towns around us doing it, there must be some good reason.
I have, more comments and questions, so if you.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm gonna voice the fact that this is the third time since I've been mayor that we're discussing this. My views are the same as they were the first two times. I see the benefits of the tax. I actually think the main benefit is the appropriations cap relief that you get. Unfortunately, I think that human nature dictates that you end up spending back up to the cap. Once you get that vacuum, that room, by moving some of those purchases outside the bucket. I also would like to say, that ultimately we could keep putting the word open space in front of it to make it sound nicer, but it's a tax. It's a tax, and my job as mayor, I speak to residents all the time. And yes, I hear from them, you know, we need to improve Schwenker's Pond, but the main thing I hear is taxes, all the time. And I want to make sure that everyone understands, as part of the context of this discussion, it's not necessarily that I'm against the open space tax, as it is, I still don't think the timing is right. When we last talked about it, about 2 years ago, we had the facilities project coming down the pike. Those taxes are gonna hit your statements next year. That's when they're gonna hit, 2026. In addition to that, I think you all know that the schools are having a conversation right now about a potential referendum. Hopefully, they don't have the need for that. But me personally, I'd like to see that through. I pay an exorbitant amount of taxes for my own house right now. And I don't have any kids in school, and a lot of those taxes are going to the schools, and I'm certainly not complaining about the schools. I mean, for the reason my kids got such a great education. But to just keep on adding on to the taxes, I don't think the timing is right until we have a full picture of what's going on here. And I just don't want to price our residents out of their houses at a time when, you know, having nothing to do with our town, you know, prices are high and people are trying to make ends meet. And I just don't want to be the person to tell them that they can't live in Fairhaven anymore. So that's the reason that I think we've made tough decisions like recycling that you know have been tough on our community. And we haven't taken the easy way out. We've addressed the system the way it is. And I would actually encourage our residents that, you know, if they don't like my position, I tell them to write emails to their state representatives and tell them to loosen up the appropriations cap restrictions that are affecting us. So that's my position on this, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide it to everyone.
Can I just respond to that, or just kind of ask that? It seems that you said we wouldn't have to we had to make tough choices about recycling. But with this tax, I actually think that might put some of the burden off of making those very difficult decisions. Because we would have more money in the pot for maintenance of things that we're already doing potentially, or DPW staff and all of that. So it would take some of the burden off.
So if we took it off, and that's what I'm saying, is if we took it off, we would have done the recycling then, and then we would have went right back up to the top of the cap.
But why is it terrible to be closer to the top of the cap if we're able to then give the residents everything that they, not everything they want, but more of what we wanted? Because people weren't happy about the recycling. They're not happy about the fact that there's invasives all over our trees. They're not happy about the fact that McCarter Pond is covered in whatever it's covered in. So this would help us with McCarter Pond, because we keep going back and forth, like, where are we getting this money from McCarter Pond? We don't have a plan for that right now. So this could potentially help with McCarter Pond. It could help with the invasives. It could help with the 3rd Street Trail, where we have all volunteers 100%. We have a volunteer that's volunteering her water for the 3rd Street Trail. So we could make a water source for the 3rd Street Trail. There's so many endless things. And I feel like honestly, that's one of the reasons I ran for office, because I felt like we weren't maintaining our public spaces. So I think there's.
First of all, as everyone knows, I stood before the governing body 3 years ago and asked for $1.5 million to get turf on the field. So I've been researching open space tax for the past 3 years. I'm very, very well versed in this. And, you know, and again, I'm all in favor of maintaining our space. I'm also in favor of allowing residents to weigh in on something. But the issue I have is that making a decision on a ballot in isolation without all of the other information is a dangerous path. And we as governing body members have an obligation to make sure people are aware of tax increases, that what might be going on with the schools, right? It's just like McCarter Pond. If you were to ask somebody, do you want to save McCarter Pond? Of course they're going to say yes, right? Who doesn't want to save McCarter Pond? But then you go into, let's talk about what that's actually going to entail. And so, you know, I struggle with the fact that yes, maybe it's $66, I think you said in the first year. Well, then it goes up.
Average homeowner.
Average homeowner, right? But then it goes up.
Less, it could be more.
Right, and it goes up each year, let's just say.
No,
It will likely given what.
But it has to be voted on. If there's an increase
Right.
from a half a penny to a penny,
Right.
that would have to be
No, I'm
voted on.
saying are the tax rates will go up. but
Yeah.
The percentage
I see what you're
of
saying.
what-
Oh, I see, the value, the assessment.
Valuation.
Yeah, right. The other thing is, we don't actually get the money. Nancy, thank you, you've been helping me tremendously in gathering some facts. Like, if we were to vote on this year, we, at the earliest, would get the money in 2027. And so there's a likelihood that this tax will be in place for a long time. You asked about other towns. Atlantic Highlands and Middletown just voted for a second open space tax, because they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish the first go around. So there are several significant long-term implications.
you're saying they needed more money.
They need more money.
Kristen, is this second vote a vote by the governing body or referendum?
Referendum.
So every increase is always a referendum.
So Middletown, you're saying voted twice to say, okay.
Well,
let's do it.
because they didn't meet what they didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve the first go around. So but the second is at a higher rate.
And they voted it in though?
Yeah. They voted it in.
Yeah.
But
So that's kind of the point. So
but
you're,
that's my, my point is that this is going to be going on for a long time. We also have no foresight into what's going on with the school. We have no foresight right now as to what we're going to be building for facilities. So I'm all in favor of maintaining our public spaces, but I would like us to take a harder look at our current budget. We've already, as everyone knows, Michael, let me talk.
I know.
We've had multiple instances this year, thanks to the due diligence we now have and oversight on our budget, where we have uncovered funds. I'm not convinced that we've totally exhausted our resources, and I think we should. And you know, on top of that, there are other green acres options. It's not just grants. We can take out a 0% interest loan. You know, there are other partnerships. I sat on a webinar and learned all about it. So my thought is, I agree on the timing. I don't think it's ideal right now. I'm not saying I'm against it forever, but I don't think the timing is right. And I don't think it's fair to the residents to ask them in isolation to vote on something when they don't have a full context of what's going on in our town.
May I just respond to your last statement? Sure. They would not be voting in isolation, because part of the next, first of all, the point of today is to bring it up and to see if there's an appetite by the council, 4 out of 6 people, to say, let's proceed and continue with the investigation.
Right.
Not to say it's a done deal.
But are we making a decision tonight as to whether or not to put it on the ballot?
No,
No, I'm not ready to do that.
no, I
No.
think, what I would like to see happen in next steps is not to have voters vote in isolation, but to have a series of open houses
Yeah.
to educate the public on what the advantages and disadvantages are to an open space tax, so that when they do go to vote, they're educated and they know what they're voting for.
Can I make a comment? on
But
that?
sure,
So we had multiple open houses on the garbage recycling situation. Right?
mhm,
Where Drew and I, we met in the morning, 30 people would show up. We had a conversation upstairs the other day where we asked Betty Ann what the number one call that she gets is. And it's about recycling and garbage, and no one knows why we did it or what the reason was. And what, so we could have 36 open houses here. I don't think that that's gonna properly inform potentially 49% of the population, that the other 51% are about to pass an additional tax on them. I'm just, the open houses, I don't think it educates
But-
the entire community. That's what I'm saying.
So, I mean, I hear that, but at the same time, like, how do we then get the community involved in any decisions that we make? So, I mean, that's just saying that, like, they're just not working, so we should stop doing them in general,
Well,
but.
I wanted to, or sorry,
Sorry,
Yeah, go
finish
ahead,
that, because then I
no,
was gonna
yeah.
ask her something.
No,
after.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Well, I
interrupt.
just wanna say, you've made a good point in terms of that there are other options, like the 0% interest loan. I would love to hear, what are some of the other options that we haven't looked at? Like, I think that should be part of this conversation too. What
So
are,
there-
And we currently have a green acres loan, and we also as residents
Yeah,
already
almost
paid
all.
last year we paid $700,000 as part of our taxes to green acres. We also separately as a
No.
borough have,
No,
yes, we did.
700 a green acre?
700, our residents in accumulation last year paid $700,000.
The Monmouth County, Monmouth
County
County,
tax.
Monmouth
Monmouth
County.
Monmouth County open
Monmouth
space
County
tax,
open
excuse me,
space
sorry.
tax. Which
So
fund-
you
which
have
funds-
two
which
open
funds the-
spaces. So I just want to, and we do have an outstanding loan. What have we got?
It's almost done, almost paid
No, it's
off.
2034.
This is for Ferry
Green acres,
Fields?
125,000.
No, but then when we actually pay it off, it's 2034.
I mean, I think I'd like to
Oh,
see
yeah.
those things too, like what are we currently paying for, like
Right.
what areas that are sort of fall into this category too. I
Right.
think that would be all really good information to have.
So other options to pay for it.
Mhm.
This is a conversation Mark Olson and I had on Third Street Trail is,
Mark Olson's never been to a Third Street Trail.
you could do a big capital project and incorporate everything. So you could say, I'm gonna restore Fairhaven Fields from invasives, I'm gonna do XYZ at Third Street Trail, I'm gonna do McCarter Pond. I'm going to do 21 Fairhaven Road and do a big capital project and issue bonds. So you could do that, sort of like the police station, community center project. But you have to do all the homework out front. Figure out exactly what you're gonna do, bid it out, and then you could bond it. There's
How-
nothing preventing. them.
How would that help with maintenance of things though? Because you're doing the project and once the project's done, then you don't have anything to pay for the
You
maintenance.
can't do maintenance, you can't do bonding for maintenance.
And we don't currently have a lot of funding in our budgets for maintenance and for planning and for, I mean, I guess you could, and planning usually can't be paid for by a capital project, correct?
Planning? I think you can pull
You
that-
can, okay, you can.
Soft cost can, yes.
Okay, but, and I'm not the expert on bonds, obviously, so, but if we're bonding, aren't we ultimately paying a lot more back? So I would love to know the difference between like what the span of money we're paying back versus like what we're paying up front with the open space.
Well, it's not like a break even analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so you would get the benefits immediately rather than over time, and you would pay for it over time rather than. But you pay for it over time either way, but with a bond, you get the benefits up front.
Amortization.
Yeah.
Bond ends, tax only ends based on referendum.
but
But
on
even-
bonding, there are costs associated with bonding, whereas the open space
Yeah.
tax goes directly into
Yeah,
a fund.
There's some small costs with bonding, yes.
But we wouldn't get the money now, but in 2027, after 2027, then we would annually get the money, correct?
Yes.
So,
So
yeah,
you
we
would-
wouldn't be able to do anything next year.
So you'd be able to do $130,000 of the projects in 2027, 130,000 in year 2028. And so
What did
on,
it accumulate?
and accumulate. With a bond, you could do it all in 2026.
Like we do with facilities.
Yeah, we do a facility.
But it still leaves out the maintenance part.
Maintenance
for
is
me.
not included.
Yeah.
Yes, so maintenance would have
Which
to
is
work its way into
Part of the
the,
reason for doing it.
so I have some prepared remarks, on this.
So
Can I ask one question? Didn't we bond for, isn't part of what we bonded for some near-term maintenance?
Yeah, 1 year,
Like a year.
the
Yeah.
facility projects, so that you can have the transition.
So I'll open with, my heart is for this very much,
Mhm.
but my mind is not. So New Jersey already has some of the highest taxes in the country. We rank number 1 in property taxes, number 4 in income taxes, number 8 in sales tax, and number 4 in corporate taxes. Our state and local governments collect more revenue per capita than almost any other place in the United States. Adding an open space tax is not just unnecessary, but it would actively make our town less affordable. It would reduce our fiscal discipline and restrict future flexibility. We all want to protect our environment and maintain a quality of life, but an open space tax is the wrong way to do it. Here's 5 reasons why. Number 1, it makes our town less affordable in 2 ways. It reduces the tax base, shifting the burdens to homeowners. When land is preserved as open space, it is removed from the tax rolls, meaning fewer properties contribute to municipal revenues. The result, higher property taxes for remaining landowners, disproportionately hurting middle-class families and seniors on fixed incomes. Secondly, it limits housing supply and development. So by permanently restricting the use of land, we create artificial scarcity, driving up home prices and rents. New Jersey already has an affordability crisis in housing, and adding more restrictions only makes it worse. More housing supply, not less, is the key to keeping our communities livable for working families. Secondly, it encourages more government spending without addressing core issues. Government spend every penny of tax collections an economy can produce, plus whatever amount is politically tolerable. In other words, total tax capacity is limited. Creating an open space tax does not increase tax capacity, it only locks spending into specific category, reducing the ability of governing bodies to prioritize pressing needs like schools, infrastructure, and public safety. By dedicating funds to open space, we are ensuring less flexibility in times of crisis. Other essential services will have less funding available, forcing difficult trade-offs. More money doesn't always solve problems. Consider the Borough Hall roof. It's been leaking for months. There's zero opposition to fixing it. We have the money, yet water continues to fall into the building during rainstorms. The problem isn't a lack of funds, it's bureaucratic red tape, slow processes, and limited staff bandwidth. Passing an open space tax wouldn't necessarily improve conditions in our green spaces, it would just allocate more money to a fund that is subject to the same administrative challenges as other government projects. Number 3, it reduces flexibility in future budget deficits. Governments need flexibility to respond to economic downturns or unexpected expenses. Locking tax revenue into a dedicated fund like open space preservation makes it harder to adjust spending when deficits arise because those funds cannot be reallocated to essential services. When a town has an open space tax, it creates political resistance to raising the general tax levy in times of fiscal stress. Residents who already see a portion of their tax bill going towards open space preservation will push back against increases in school, public safety, or infrastructure funding. This rigidity forces municipalities into a corner. Instead of being able to spread tax burdens evenly, they may have to raise other taxes disproportionately or cut essential services to balance the budget. Number 4, the open space tax will only grow over time. Once implemented, taxes rarely stay the same. They almost always increase. Case study is Middletown that came up earlier. In 1998, Middletown introduced its open space tax at 1 cent. The tax rate was increased in 2002, 2020, and 2024, quadrupling to 4 cents. This pattern of tax increase shows that what starts as small tax only grows over time, adding to the long-term financial burden of residents. There are insufficient limits on future open space tax increases, making it an ever-growing expense for taxpayers. Last point, number 5. New Jersey residents already pay too much in taxes. We are one of the worst states for taxations, high in every category: property tax, income tax, sales tax, corporate tax. Other states balance their tax structures. Texas has a high property tax, but no income tax. California has high income taxes, but lower property taxes. New Jersey doesn't balance its tax structure. We rank among the highest in all 4 major tax categories, and we still hear that the government needs more. Our local governments must learn to operate within existing revenues instead of constantly creating new taxes. So the open space tax sounds appealing, but the real impact is higher property taxes, fewer housing opportunities, and continued lack of fiscal discipline. And the worst part, the tax will only grow over time. We've seen it happen before in Middletown, where an open space started at 1 cent and quickly quadrupled. Once implemented, these taxes do not go away, they expand and they become permanent burdens on homeowners. More importantly, this tax will not fix problems it claims to address, just like the Borough Hall roof. The issue isn't a lack of funds, it's inefficient government processes and limited administrative bandwidth. New Jersey taxpayers are already overburdened and local governments need to find efficiencies rather than adding new taxes. We all value open space, but we should find smarter, fiscally responsible ways to preserve it, not at the cost of making our communities even more unaffordable. I cannot support the open space tax.
Thank you,
Can I respond?
Sure.
Thank you, that was very thorough. I have a lot of thoughts. So I'm just gonna kind of go through. So making the town less affordable. I mean, at most, it was what, 100 and something, whatever it was, but like the middle was
132.
132. So I get for some of it, can be a lot for someone in this town. For the majority of people, it's probably not. We would be asking them to vote on it. But then you mentioned that we would have less housing options, which leads me to believe that you're saying that you're open to building on some of our current open spaces.
No,
But then I don't know how it would be,
So-
provide less housing.
good question. The open space tax is meant to acquire property to make it open space. It
No,
also does maintenance,
You
but
can do that.
you can do maintenance.
One of the.
And future governing bodies could use that tax revenue to buy property.
We could,
Like
but I don't,
21 Fairhaven Road, for example.
yeah,
21 Fairhaven Road used to pay taxes, they no longer do,
yeah.
right? And so then that's
That tax burden is spread out.
Spread
Well,
out.
many people on this dais did vote for that. So,
yes.
and now we have it. What are we,
I don't-
how are we maintaining that?
I don't want
So,
to create a Pac-Man that's going to be buying property around town.
but I don't
that's-
think but that's not the main, you're pulling that piece out, but the majority of this is to help maintain the existing open space. So in the fear that we might, governing bodies might buy property to make it open space.
So
They can, but in the meantime, we're stopping bringing in
I
money.
understand your interpretation. I do.
It's not interpretation,
No, but
it
no,
is the
no,
actual
what I'm
fact that you can use it for.
No, but what I'm
maintenance.
saying is, which is what we discussed 2 years ago, was we even discussed doing this just to do a carve out for the appropriations cap and basically agreeing not to spend the gap in the dollars. But what we noticed is future governing bodies are gonna get there and they're gonna see that gap, and when they need it, they're gonna spend it. Just as future governing bodies could potentially see that open space money and do the Pac-Man that obviously you do not want to do. And I don't think there's anyone up here that has
Yeah.
that approach, but it doesn't mean that future people that sit on the dais won't be enabled by the opportunity to do that.
But again, I kind of feel like we're worried about what might happen
What's
and not
allowed.
worrying about what is allowed, but then not dealing with things we know are happening right now. We know we don't have money for 21 Fairhaven Road, besides taking down the building. We have no money. We don't have any in this budget. We're probably not gonna have any money in the next budget. So we also know we're not maintaining our natural fields as well as we could be, like we're not maintaining Third Street Trail. So I just feel like we're worried about what might happen in the future. I'm not saying I'm 100% for this tax, but it seems that like we know we have a problem right now. And this could be a solution for it. So before we're like cutting off our feet or whatever, before we even get a chance to deal with this. So then my other things were,
Can I just add one
Sure.
more thing
Go.
to that, because I agree with the threat of the Pac-Man. And our appetite for open space, I surely hope has been satisfied. But if we choose to put this on a referendum before the public, it can stipulate that those funds may never be used for acquisition. Because
do we know
yeah.
that's true?
you can set.
They can then change that.
Well, that'll have to go back to our referendum.
Just
saying
to-
what the
just-
powers that are
Housing
available.
for affordable housing. that
Yeah.
developers are trying to buy land for,
Yeah.
much less. And
There's-
21 Bering Road was supposed to be the last of the.
I think it will be. I'm not saying that's the direction it's headed, but you look at Middletown and they said, I'm sure if we went back to the 1998 minutes, they pitched it, it's just half a penny. It's just half a penny. And they've been back to the ballot box 4 times.
But they kept
Since
voting
the-
4 times,
and
so that's where like.
Well, also though, Middletown, you know, the amount per resident that they're putting towards their schools, I'm sure is much less. We're running an entire school system for, 7,000 residents here. I don't know what the population is Middletown, but I'm sure it's in the 100,000s or
I
something.
think that passing an open space tax would make it harder for the school to solve the problem that they have.
How?
Because the tax capacity is limited, and we're gonna eat some of it up. And they're gonna go to the voters, and the voters are gonna already feel this tax on top of what they have now and say, I don't want it.
And the facility.
And the facility.
Can you repeat, wait, I lost you.
So I think the capacity that an economy will pay is capped at the tax capacity.
Right,
So they will only pay an X amount of taxes,
okay.
right? And that may fluctuate a little with the economy or whatever,
Mhm.
but generally it's fixed. And so if we come
Generally,
in,
it's fixed.
I think generally it's fixed, yes, or any.
This is a
and-
theory you have,
At any point in time, I think it's fixed. I
as in like a theory or an opinion you have about
Just
just.
from looking at the
human
balance
beings?
sheets of 10,000 municipalities over 30 years, like,
I noticed we don't get a say in most of the taxes we pay, so it's clearly not.
I mean,
fixed.
just looking at lots and lots of tax fights over the years, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's sort of fixed. And so if we, let's just, to make the point, we'll go extreme. Let's say we were gonna tax an extra $1, not a penny, right? Now the taxpayers don't want any more new taxes.
It snuffs out any other.
Snuffs out the school district, it's hard, or if the county or the state or anybody else has a crisis and needs to raise taxes, we will have eaten up some of that political goodwill of the taxpayers. That's my point.
And,
There's a lot of assumptions.
so,
though. Yeah.
one more thing I want to say on that is our taxes go up, the value of our homes should
Will go up.
potentially go, no, if the taxes go up based on an open space tax, the interest in coming to a community in which it has higher taxes versus could potentially go down. But what I wanted to say there is, I know we said that the majority of the community could eat up the amount of money that you said. So I found our facilities finance debt calculation that we did, I think it was about 2 years ago. Not saying that the rates are the same now as they were then, but we were estimating an additional $792.60 on the average residential home based on the facilities.
Mhm.
And that's, that's based to hit, I think, the majority of that, 636 of those dollars are supposed to hit the next 2 years. Nancy, is that still accurate? Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
I did not seen that document. I'm not saying you're wrong.
So you're saying it's an increase that hasn't really hit us yet?
And this would be on top of it.
There is gonna be an increase due to debt service from the facility, correct?
I mean, I get that, like if you're adding on top of it. that
I
could be a
would you be
bonus.
interested in, like, one of the things I'd be interested in seeing is. We could forecast it, my guess is roughly,
Yeah,
what the 2026, June 2026 tax bill will look like.
yeah.
I mean, cause we could speculate, but.
I asked that.
So the full amount, the whole 792 has not hit yet. So this would
So
be,
what generally has the increase?
that's on the average home.
Okay, but like, what have they already paid of that? Like, are they paying like 500 or 600 already? So it would really only be.
No, they haven't paid us since.
None.
No.
That debt service is not being.
Okay.
The only that hits the budget right now,
Yeah.
and will continue to 25, is the interest on the bank.
I mean, I think
Anyone
that's an
else?
important piece. If we do end up going forward with the referendum, then I think that's an important piece to educate them, but I don't know that that would be a reason to not give them the option. But I understand Josh's point that not everyone's gonna get all that information. But can I just have a couple more things? So you said more government. We wouldn't be able to spend on core issues. I still don't see how that is the case because we still have our existing budget this would just give us more money to spend. I don't see it taking away from anything else.
So here's a question, to your point, because I'm thinking about it the same way you are. If we were to ask taxpayers, residents, if they wanted to vote yes on this tax, even with all of the information, they may very well say yes.
Mhm.
If they realize that it potentially comes at the cost of other priorities,
Mhm.
i.e. the schools, would they think about it differently? I think that's the point we're trying
Yes.
to make.
So, yeah, the facilities and the school referendum, both of those, correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, both of those, while we've been paying some debt service on the facilities work for years now. Well, I know we have to remember,
We have debt service that we're paying, yes, but it's
So
not on the facilities.
It's not
all
on
the
the, it's
soft, all
not,
the soft costs.
it's not on the new
We're
facility.
only paying
Okay,
interest in the months.
Not yet, it's 2023, 17.
Yes.
That's not anything that is not permanently financed is not part of, we're not paying debt service on.
Hey, Nance, can I just summarize and tell me, just to educate, tell me if this is wrong. So we took out the bond ordinances required that just authorized us for those funds.
That offer.
Check. Then we go through Monmouth County IA, I forget what the IA stands for.
Improvement Authority.
Thank you. And that is all short-term financing,
Correct,
right?
1 year.
For 1 year, right? And we use the short-term financing as a means and method to figure out how much are we exactly gonna spend, when are we gonna spend it, et cetera.
Correct.
Once I'm gonna use the word convert, might not be the right word, but once we convert from short-term to long-term funding, that's when then the taxpayer gets hit with the increased debt service.
Correct. The only piece that is hitting the taxes right now.
Is the interest
is the interest
on the CIA loan.
Yes,
Got it.
we do have separate
Yeah.
debt service that we've been paying since 2019.
Right.
Totally, I
Actually, 2009, they've all been, 2019, but
copy that.
yeah.
Want to discern them between the existing debt service and the debt service that's gonna happen from the facilities project.
Correct.
Two separate things.
So some of that is facilities related, but this is different, this funding mechanism you're talking about, so now that helped me catch up.
Yeah, no worries.
So the things, just so we're clear, and I think we all get it, like facilities is gonna hit, the school referendum is gonna hit. And to me, we'd wanna know, it's just so we can make a contextualized decision, or at least continue to have the conversation with some more information. This again goes to the timing question, because I personally like that we're talking about this. I think that this is something we take our time with and talk to our community.
Mhm.
And, you know, I don't have a problem with open houses. I know that they have, you know, modest yield, it depends. But there are so many other ways that we can be talking to our community. This may take some time to arrive at a decision, but I would rather us take our time and arrive at consensus that's really well informed. And because it's not just a financial decision, I agree, we cannot afford to take care of what we have. Right now, with what we have, we can't afford to keep taking care, there's a lot of things that have reached a level of, you know, I call it, it's almost like it needs an intervention, a kind of expense that exceeds average maintenance expenses. We have to get better at taking care of what we have annually, you know, year over year over year, but separate. This could help us resolve that. But I do think we need to take our time with it personally. I also would like to see how the master plan plays out and how that engages with the community and what we learn from it and where the priorities, you know, how the government feels about those priorities and conversations as it comes up. I think it could be very helpful in informing this decision. I want to go on the record saying, I do think this is a valuable tool. I'm not ready to eliminate it, and I think we should stay open to examining it.
Agreed.
So I want to hit just a few other points too. For me, I think there's a lot of data that we need.
Yeah.
And what's the process to prioritize open space? What's the process to select where funds are used? What's the current open space grants, and are we exhausting every opportunity? What are the lessons learned from other towns? What are the direct impacts for the budget gonna be? 154K does not solve this, it alleviates it. The degree of alleviation depends on a bunch of different factors, and I don't want to speculate. And the most important thing to me is who's gonna lead the research of it? Right, like you look at all of the current, like, to do the research on this, to reach out to 450 different towns, not that you reach out to everyone, right? But the point is that there's a tremendous amount of research required to position us to make the best decision of what the next step is. So that's just what I wanted to end with.
Well, I don't want to speak for MCF, but that organization does have a lot of resources available for towns who have questions and are interested in exploring what the options are, pitfalls and potential benefits. Full disclosure, it's an open space driven organization, so they like to see municipalities adopt open space taxes, but none of it isn't right for the municipality, but I guess where I was going is we don't have to be alone with the research.
100%.
There's some resources out there.
And Trace, that's why I said the innovation premium here is zero.
Yeah.
We're not the first town in the open
Yeah.
Do
space
they
tax.
ever come speak to governing bodies? Like, is
Yeah.
that an option? I mean, it would be nice to have someone come in and
I'm
answer our
sure.
questions,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's been my experience, having worked with them for a long time. but
or even go in and talk to like the environmental commission or,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing, and Nancy, this is probably a question for you. How long do you need, like, when would we might be able to see or get a glimpse of a rough idea of what that tax bill might look like? I'm not asking for anything precise, just sort of a rough sense of what the average tax bill on the average homeowner would be like in, say, June 2026, and maybe June 2027.
Is that doable?
I asked that, I asked you that.
You can't.
So you know what they,
I did ask that always.
well, based on the existing rateable base, right? I know there's fluctuation in certain, but if you kept it constant,
It's based on the 2025 valuation.
that's fine, okay.
The 2026 valuation won't be available till earliest October, actually, probably December.
So even if we used the 2025 and, you know, added in what we know that that service is gonna look like based on the referendums that have passed, or the school referendum and the facilities debt service, can we get at least a sketch? I'm not asking for anything precise.
I can certainly try. It's not something I'll have this week or even next.
Well, no, right. I mean, I personally think this is an ongoing, personally, and I know we haven't, you know, told the council or anything, but I personally think this is an ongoing conversation, so those data points would be helpful.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to tap again, something the mayor talked about, which is the appropriations cap, which really handcuffs really all towns.
Mhm.
And I know the mayor's put a lot of effort into attempting to, you know, advocate on behalf of municipalities who are struggling with this budget constraint. So, you know, while we're waiting for everything else to play out and looking at all this data, I wonder what we can do to further convey to our elected officials that the appropriations cap has a real stranglehold on us, just provide basic services even. I suppose the instruction is to lobby our state senators.
Stand up.
Okay, just two things, if you don't mind me bringing up. One, Councilman LaBarber brought up a question about open space grants. Just to give you an idea, the 2025 open space grant from Monmouth County came out. They did double the amount this year.
Mhm.
Years previous was 250,000. This year's application is a max of 500,000, which obviously we'll be actively pursuing as a municipality. The second thing too, when you talk about services, there was a recent email that went out in the municipal managers groups. There is proposed legislation. However, I have not found a proposed bill online that's actually looking to make it harder for municipalities to outsource trash. So because they've determined that it's not a savings to outsource trash. That's concerning, and they're looking for polls of how many towns are looking to do that. Where I find that concerning is the fact that we're probably not gonna see the exception that we were hoped that maybe the legislation would push for towns to have an out-of-cap expense for outsourcing of trash. If they don't see that as a favorable option for municipalities, I don't see them ever bringing that exception back.
When you say outsourced, do you mean like to Roselli's? or
Correct, to a private contractor, correct. So towns that currently have a have their own in-house trash like we did at one
Yeah.
point, and they're looking to outsource it. There's proposed legislation to discourage municipalities from doing that. because they found it's not as safe as municipalities, so, which concerns me because, you know, again, what we had hoped for, an exception for CAP for outsourcing trash, probably not gonna see that.
And what is the likelihood of the state eliminating the appropriations cap? And is that something worth campaigning for?
You know, I mean, obviously that comes to state. I mean, we had, I know when I first got here, there were a few meetings that the mayor had with our legislators and. I mean, I think, you know, anything, again, once you get rid of appropriations cap, you know, what's the first thing that people think is you have increased spending, and that's always an unpopular decision to begin with. So I don't know. That's certainly something that's way above me, you know, and people certainly could lobby their legislators and see if there's something that could be done, but you know.
We
I'm gonna
can
bring it
certainly put that on a future workshop if we wanna have a discussion and take a position together in which we wanna send a letter or something like that. That's something you guys wanna do. As far as this, I don't wanna, you know, I know what my mind is on the direction. It sounds like people have interest in the open space tax, but I also hear a lot of hesitance over the timing of it. There would need to be more data driven, so I would just maybe encourage some continued conversation. You know, with Nancy gathering the data as far as the cost and stuff like that. You know, to me, I personally would never move up. Just letting you know, if it was a tie, I would never move on this until at least the facilities taxes had been passed and we knew exactly what that looked like. If that gives you any idea of a timeline in my head, so that's what is that July of 26?
Yeah, around that time.
So around July of 26 would be my timeline to look at it again and potentially consider.
Wouldn't, but to that point though.
For my vote.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you
You
don't
would
get
need
to
a
vote.
resolution.
No, only if it was a
tie.
tie,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you're-
Just, yeah.
But then that would time, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say like, but then this wouldn't hit till 2027 anyway, so that would actually be the.
If you
But-
voted it in this year, which we're saying we need more time. So
Yeah, no,
if we
I
get on the
wanna-
ballot this year,
What I was saying is I wanna know in July of 2026, what the impact is from the facilities on individual
Really
resident
know it.
taxes. And I also think by then we'll have more clarity on the schools and where that ends up. Listen, I started a long time ago, the first thing I said here is I see the benefits. But I really do think that we're not recognizing if all those other taxes hit and we throw the open space tax on top of that. It's a heavy burden for our residents to carry right now.
I'll
And
just
that,
say,
you know.
I think we can get a little bit of a snapshot prior to the actual tax bill. So I would propose that we use this time, you know, call it a year, I don't really know, but use this time to collect more information, to do our due diligence, to engage the public, whether it's one-on-ones or in groups or attending meetings, however, I know my methods. But, and then if we want to formalize that at some point, you know, obviously it would have to come back here. I have one question for Allison before since you're gonna move us on, but, what is clearly the county would need information from us,
I was just gonna say, when
Okay.
Michael was speaking, you have to adopt a resolution saying we're looking to go forward, and this is our public question that we want included on the ballot.
Right.
No matter what year it is,
Before.
it's gotta be by your last meeting in July.
Oh,
Yeah,
July.
because then they
You
can
give
one
it,
day.
it depends on when the election falls, it has to be like.
But it's for the November general election,
Correct.
right? And so you need it, that
At least
resolution by
by
July.
July, no later than August, depending on when the election falls, because there's.
Okay. Okay,
So
that's helpful.
For this year, if we wanted it to get on the ballot, we'd have to have this
For
decision
July
done by
28th.
July.
Mhm.
So we would have to keep this conversation kind
Well,
of in every meeting.
I suggest we do that.
Correct.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess how I feel is that there is support from different committees and commissions who are at the forefront of dealing with the open spaces and our historic buildings. And there is obviously some interest in keeping to learn. I would just hate to stop the conversation here when there is so much interest from
Let's not.
different agencies. So that's.
Well, that's my
Why
question.
don't
Do
we keep going?
we need to pass a motion? Say, I mean, I'm going to explore all of your questions.
Yeah.
I'll work with Nancy. do we need to motion that, or is that something I can do on my own?
No, just do it on your own and then we'll workshop it the next meeting.
Like the
or-
mayor or whatever.
But how do we
Probably
do?
not at the March 10th meeting at school, but maybe go for
Might
that.
need a
Yeah,
little more
somebody out
time
there.
The
anyway.
24th.
But I just wanna make sure that, like, do we have to make a motion to make sure it gets on the agenda? Or that would be up to,
Well, Josh gives
If
us.
it's a reception on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda.
I'll send you all my questions.
Yeah. You know, and then we could talk, I mean,
Yeah, you
a
have to
survey is
baseball.
one way to find out if
just,
the residents have an appetite.
yeah.
I'm really reluctant to, this year, there's gonna be a lot of surveys. I want to avoid survey fatigue. I agree with you, Betsy. It would be a great way, but I think when the master plan work is undergoing, the planners devising ways to gain, solicit input, that question can be part of a larger
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
set of questions that have to, then it would have some context as well.
Can I, maybe I am unclear are there 4 people up here that are gonna consider putting this up for July of this year?
No, I don't know if it'll be that quick.
Alright,
but
so
they
that,
know.
so we're not talking about this year, so let's just get all the data we can
Okay.
and keep the conversation going. Is
And
that fair?
I'm grateful that we've started talking about this, so I appreciate our work, Betsy.
Thank you for the presentation, thank you, Nancy.
Josh, Nance, one question that came up was raising the appropriation, so I don't want you guys to be blindsided, I'll put it in the question, just understanding if you did raise the appropriations cap, what happens and what does that look like and whatnot?
Okay, one more time.
The appropriations cap, if the appropriations cap was increased, what happens with surplus, what happens with spending?
Yeah.
So.
I was asking him, and I think that would be helpful. I know it's not, that in addition to the work.
Just being
open space.
educated.
Yeah.
I know my
I'll send you an email.
Well, don't we do that every year? With the, never mind.
All right, we're gonna move along to public comment on agenda items only. Please observe a 3-minute time limit. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Susan, and then we'll go Katie. All right, and then I think I saw Anna also. Who was that?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, I'm sorry. Vision.
Hi, Susan O'Brien, 875 River Road. This is about the open space tax, which of course I'm in favor of because I'm aware of all the problems that we have with lack of maintenance throughout town. So as a resident, I say, just schedule the referendum and then make your cases either for or against. And let us decide. Okay?
Thank you, Susan. Katie?
Hi, Katie Purcell, 126 Lexington. I came here to talk about something else, but I was on the Board of Ed, and I've been through a referendum, vote, and I just want to respectfully just caution what you said earlier, Mayor, when we've been there. Well, we have these meetings and no one comes, why bother?
I didn't say no guns. We had nice, yeah, sure,
There's a
nice.
little bit of it's frustrating when you have all these great presentations and you don't get a lot of folks come out. We face that on the Board of Ed all the time, and we challenged us to don't be annoyed because not enough people came. It was a challenge to us that we needed to do a better job on the communication. And whether it was postcards, whether it was, meet in the park, we pushed. The high school also had a referendum. Their communication strategy was even better than ours, I think. But you all brought up a really good point. It's hard enough to get residents to understand the difference between municipal tax and school tax. That you are not responsible for the, what is it, where are we at now? 70% tax. That what you discuss as municipal budget, that's like basic tax education for the public. This is even more important because you're right, in the big pot of things, people just know that there's a tax bill, and you do need to educate whatever the best format is on the difference between I learned about tonight, the facilities tax, and then there might be the open space tax and the referendum on top of it. So you brought up a good point that the public might get fatigued by all the little taxes, and then it hurts everybody. They get mad. They don't, now they're mad because of the tax here, tax there. But it's not an unsolvable problem. There's clever ways to communicate it, a team approach, like someone representing each of those taxes, Sean McNeil, facilities, everybody sitting together and saying, hey, here we're all here. Here's the pie chart of the taxes that we think may come forward. This is why it's important. And to your point, and then and then throw it to the public for a vote. So I just don't get discouraged just because a lot of people don't come. We also were discouraged when we were on the local board of ed, but we kept trying to find unique ways to educate. We got people that were smarter than us to help us with how that communication is gonna work. So that's all.
Thank you, Kate.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Stephanie,
Hi, Stephanie Adams, 230 Oxford. I wanted to just, I guess, ask a question. We'll make a statement. I know that on our tax bill, there is a Monmouth County open space tax already on our tax bill, and we all pay it. Nobody seems to complain about it. When we're talking about 3 cents on, $1,000 of assessed value, if you're talking about a $2 million home, you're talking about $60 in addition. Your tax bill is probably already $20,000 to $25,000. So I personally don't see how that would be, onerous. I understand the principle of it is not appealing, that you are adding to this tax bill, but I don't know that it would be, that you could consider it a difficulty, right, for the taxpayer. Because it's only $60.
600,
The first year.
The first year.
600, 160.
No,
Three-
60.
3 cents per 100.
No,
Two
no,
million.
no, we're talking
Penny per penny.
Did you say 3 cents?
So the open space tax, I believe,
Oh, no, she's talking about the open space tax. but
open space
this
tax is
additional
3
tax.
cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So if we followed that formula,
Oh, got it,
it
okay.
would be $60 for an additional. open
Per
space
1,000,
tax.
yes, check.
Yeah. My other issue is just with the title, and I think maybe that's where Brian was going. Calling it an open space tax does sort of give the illusion that we're using this to purchase more open space. I know when I first started looking into it, that was the first thing that came to my mind, and I think now everybody agrees that we really were maxed out and there's nowhere else to buy. So, and I don't know if the residents would also struggle with that, and I'm not advocating to change the name. But in some of the research that I did, I was talking to Carolyn about this, was, there are different ways to address this, whether, and one of the counties that I looked at, it was a natural resource protection charge, which is not a good name, but is there another, because essentially what we're looking for is a pool of money to address our maintenance needs. We're not looking to acquire more open space. I'm not gonna go on about why it's important, why so many residents move here for our open spaces, right? It keeps our children healthier and happier, we all understand the importance of it. But we do need money to maintain it. So is there another way to frame it so that it's clear that this money is not to acquire more open space? This money is gonna be used to maintain what we have. And I would disagree with you, Tracy, on commercial property, because if you go back to this quality protection, quality control on your natural resources, and you think about it, some counties think about it in terms of, well, who uses our natural resources, right? Who uses our air, water, land? And so people that are using these natural resources, we're gonna tax them for the use of those natural resources. In our commercial properties, I would argue, right? Some of them do pollute the air, some of them do increase our stormwater, some of them don't maintain their property, with better stormwater infrastructure. So I would argue to include them, just because they are using our natural resources. So I think that they should also, contribute to that tax. So, I think that was it, yes.
thank you, Stephanie. The only part of that I'd like to respond to is, the part where you say, a lot of the residents are paying $20,000 to $25,000 and it's not onerous. I disagree with that, because I've been up here now for 3 years. I don't understand your point, but I've been up here for 3 years, different projects. So it's only $1.63 a month. It's only $10 a month, and all of these add up, and it's on top of the sales taxes that everyday Americans are paying at the grocery store. It's on top of their income tax that gets taken out of their paycheck. It's on top of truthfully, I think are already, and I represent the municipal government that's taxing the residents. I think the taxes that we're taxing our residents are onerous already. So anything on top of that, I think does qualify as being unnecessary if we can prevent it from the dais as a body. It's not the uses that we're trying to protect from. We agree with everyone out there that we want more money to protect what we have in the future, 100%. I want to make that very clear. There's not a single person up here that doesn't want the resources to protect what we already have, help maintain them, our natural areas. We all agree on that. I think just from a financial standpoint, I just want to verify that that's where I'm coming from, that I do think it's onerous to continue to tax our residents above where they're already at, because I think that number is onerous in itself. So.
And I fully agree with you,
So-
but for as long as, different, different governing bodies have been talking about this for some time, and so it's, and looking at, when some of these municipalities actually instituted their open, like, we're going back to like the late 80s, the early 90s, like, it's not like this is just happening, it's been happening for some time, so it's not necessarily attractive, and and I'm not trying to be flippant that it's not onerous, but I'm just doing the math, it's the problem is not fixing itself, and so to the extent, and again, we could call it something else other than open space tax, so that there's no confusion as to where the money is going, maybe that's a direction too, and thank you, I appreciated your presentation, it was really thoughtful, so, yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but at the same time.
And part of what enables me to have the position I have, quite truthfully, is a huge compliment to a lot of the people I see out there, is that you've created some magic with very limited resources. So, the things that you've done to these natural areas without the resources that I'm sure that you would want is something that you should all be very proud of. And I know that I'm very thankful for, and I'm sure I could speak on behalf of the entire community and say the same thing. So.
Can I throw this out there though? Thank you for all of that, but they are using resources. They're just using their own resources. They're paying their own money. They're using their own physical bodies. And so it's not coming at an expense.
It's more than $60.
I know, it's more than $60 for these people. It's thousands and thousands of dollars, thousands of hours that they've spent. So yes, we're thankful to them.
Much in the same way that the baseball community rakes the fields and,
But they do get more money. We do have money
in the gyms. In the gyms, I mop the floors when I come in to make sure they don't stick for the, so.
We have to spend more money.
The entire community is raising up, and I wanted to compliment that. Yes, Kelly.
Kelly Flanagan, again, 223 3rd Street. Just a little caveat though, I do charge pay for my kids to play baseball. So that all goes into the fund, right? But my other question is, do you know how much of Fairhaven is actually open space?
I was gonna ask that same question.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
How much?
Isn't it? Well, we like 20%?
No,
We have
less.
It's over
Well,
100 acres.
If you look at the ERI and then you add the 0.79 acres that we just acquired at 21, and you kind of guesstimate the pocket parks, it's, close to 89 acres.
So 15% of Fairhaven, which is 1.5 square miles, is classified as open space. If you have not read the Fairhaven ERI, which the Environmental Commission has worked diligently doing, I do recommend that everybody looks at this resource. It is phenomenal. It has currently been updated with all our open space maps, photos, everything you want to know about what constitutes open space as we see here in our town. Most towns do have in part of their master plan an open space plan as well. And that could be generated by the borough council or commission to determine what the priorities are. Residents can weigh in on that too. So I know that was a question that came up, well, what prioritizes it? But I do understand, and believe me, we are working on the schools too. We're asking people for money and it's a tiresome job. It is really hard and much harder than I ever could imagine. So I get that this is a difficult subject. But I challenge you to think that if we were to collect an open space tax or some type of measurement like this, would that not be saving our borough in the long run?
Yeah.
Because it is so much more efficient to maintain
Mhm.
our properties than it is to fix the problem once it's happened.
Yeah.
And I am also volunteering my own time on the McCarter Pond Committee,
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to fix this problem with no money.
Mhm.
And it's to the point where like, why am I wasting my time? We have no money to do this.
Mhm.
So a fund, some sort of allocated funds for problems like this could help, so we maintain it, so we don't have this big problem at the end that just seems unattainable. So that ongoing, it might save the borough in the long run.
Bicentennial Hall is a great example. Had we had money for Bicentennial Hall a long time ago, we probably wouldn't be spending all the money we're spending now. Now, granted, we got some grants for it, but still, I mean.
It's the same with your house, right, in your own property, maintenance, yes, but it's ongoing, you have to do it in order to have the Borough Hall roof caving in or leaking constantly, it needs to be updated, and so I wonder if this will actually be more efficient and beneficial in the long run.
That's a
Thank you,
great
Karen.
question.
And actually, can I just go back to something you said, how it's like poor planning and why the roof's still leaking? I don't disagree. I think we could be running things better, but that's also on us, and I don't think that that's contingent, this open space tax would do anything about that. Like, I think we need to do that better, 100%. But I don't see that as a downside to like actually getting more money to pay for things. But I understand what you're saying.
Mr. Olson, oh, sorry.
Oh, we got a
Awesome.
good, we got a kid question.
You don't say I have a column in my way here.
Oh, let that young man speak.
He's,
Mark
that's
Olson.
mayor.
Sorry about that. Mark Olson, 220 Cambridge Avenue. I hate to disagree with my Minnesota brother, my Minnesota Olson brother, but. Bring it up. Couple of points. Number one, if Middletown started at 1%, then they voted to raise it. Their taxes weren't raised. They said, we want to pay more. Something to consider. The other one is that we keep talking about taxes. No one wants to pay more taxes. But what do we get for our taxes? So I don't know that your number is right, Tracy. If it's 87, I thought it was closer to 100.
It is, it's over 100.
Because I know
189.
We're at, in the natural area,
Yeah, it's like
we're
double.
at 40 plus the baseball fields, we're at 77 plus.
Yeah, I was wrong,
Third Street
Mark.
Trail.
It's
Okay, so
189.
if we go 100,
100 acres.
100
Well, 100 in
acre.
the master plan, you look at the ERI and there's other ways to.
Look at Andrew.
Because Andrew, what would you buy an acre in Fairhaven for $500,000? Would anybody in Fairhaven buy an acre for $500,000?
Where is the acre located?
Yes,
What
by the way,
location?
I would.
It's the bird sanctuary. We have like 6
21.
acres there. We could probably sell that for at least 500,000. That's 3 million, right? So if we have 100 acres at 500,000, 50 million. We have $50 million value of open space. How much should we spend in maintaining the open space? 1% is 500,000 a year. 0.5%, does anybody in this town pay 0.5% to maintain their house? We all pay more than that. You have to maintain the property, so we have a gap. So, I mean, I think Nancy did a great job. I think Council Koch did a great job driving this whole thing. I think we should just keep talking about it. But we have a gap between this property that we need to maintain and where we're gonna get the money. The last thing is when you put money into some of this property, that property increases in value.
Yeah.
Right? Has Third Street Trail increased in value? Does that help the rateable? We have to increase the value of this property. Or we can go like Newark and just let the property who gives a crap? We're not going to invest in our own property. I like the face, go ahead. Do you want to counter?
First of all, Mark Olson's tremendous. I want to bring that up. And thank you for everything you do for the community as well. The two things I do want to bring up though is when you did come to us for the Third Street Trail.
Yeah.
You said I need no resources. I need
we
nothing. I'm doing everything on my own.
Doing it again in a couple of weeks. We're doing it.
But then to use that as an argument of why we need more money, that kind of defeats the purpose of why the project started in the first place.
Because as the facts change, as you learn, Josh, you have to adjust. And you get into the Third Street Trail and you realize there's big trees that are compromise. We just lost a beautiful tree, came across the Third Street Trail. Why did that tree come down?
Fine.
Covered in English ivy that we couldn't get to. So we have to, we can stay and just say that we'll never, ever invest in the property. Is that what you're?
That's not what I'm saying, but to use as an argument to, that you did a project that you said would not need any borough resources.
We
Now
continue
you're
to do
using that as the way to try and sell an additional tax on all residents. I think if we went back to the moment where you initially sold us on the project, if we knew that was the conclusion at that time, meanwhile, the project's unbelievable. It really is.
Well, we could have
But-
just stopped, Josh.
Mark,
Stopped and there
Mark.
Would have been eventually
Mark,
unusable.
That's
Mark,
okay.
but the other point from what you said that I just wanna make out is that you made it sound as if we're not spending any money on maintaining the borough.
I didn't say that.
In your situation, you said, would you just pay 1% to maintain that piece of
Of
property?
course you would.
I think we are paying 1% to maintain our property.
Well,
You're saying you wanna spend another percent on top of that. We are spending a lot of money to maintain Fairhaven. Now, I understand you think there's a gap.
yes.
I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
Cause I think I share your opinion that there's a
Right,
gap.
right.
But I just wanna make very, very clear that there's a lot of resources put into maintaining what we have now. I think we both agree there's just not enough.
Yeah, but I'll just press back on you on that. I don't know if we should say a lot. Maybe we could quantify. It was interesting when Chris brought that up. Who's gonna pay for the level where you lived? It was that the question?
The question was for the resources.
That'd be nice if we tracked all the resources and see if where those resources get spent. On Third Street Trail, on the Bird Sanctuary, wherever.
I think that's a really valuable.
I would like to see also that, the Third Street Trail is an example of, we just want to isolate that one geographical area. It's an area that received zero investment of any kind from the government for years and years over years.
Decades and decades.
And it was the residents who said, enough, we can't, they bootstrapped themselves, organized themselves, and changed it. They
Funded
used their
ourselves.
own resources, human, financial, neighbors, water, jugs, and.
The mayor's contribution, he got a tree.
Everyone contributed,
Oh, yeah.
so this is not meant to exclude anyone, I think it took the whole community, but it's a really good example of, we can continue to do that and still need funds and resources to maintain properties in Fairhaven. Those two things don't exist they can coexist. We can commit as a community to volunteer and commit as a community through government to fund the maintenance of our open space. One does not cancel out the other.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, and my final point that I wanted to make is like, we're talking about the tax. We haven't determined what the cost is.
Yeah, we don't.
So why are we talking about a tax without even assessing, like, you went to Bonnie and I and asked us what the number is, I'm not even look at Bonnie, but the number isn't a very big number,
For just the Third Street Trail?
just the Third Street Trail.
Oh, but we're having
And-
26 different.
If
Okay.
you,
But
if
it'd
you
be good to-
ask Carolyn about the biggest piece of property
Okay.
in Fairhaven, the
Okay.
44 acres, that is the natural area. I'm not gonna look at Carolyn, but the number's not that big.
And we should know what
So,
operating costs.
and we had talked to Teresa Casagrande and said, you don't have to go half, you can go a quarter. You can get the number down, you can do a tenth of a penny, right? Can't you cut this number down into a slice?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to a penny or half a penny, you can go very small and learn from the experience. It's gonna take years. And go from it. And then, the last one is, I didn't get a vote on 21 Fairhaven Road. I didn't get a vote on DPW facilities or the police. I didn't get one blanket vote. And my taxes went up when the bond lady was in here 2 years ago and whoever she was from Jersey City, and she said, oh yeah, on average, it's gonna be $550 for each resident. And now our mayor says the number is really like 772. I didn't get one flippin' vote on that. This one, let the residents vote. That's not you putting a tax on them, Josh. You can walk, What free? You had nothing to do with it. Just put it out and let the residents determine their fate. Because there are residents in this town that want to spend that money. They
We're
want
already
to.
spending that.
Don't deny them the opportunity to spend their money to improve the land for Fairhaven today, tomorrow, 50, 100, 150 years from now. Let them do that.
So I just, I,
Well
I,
said. That's well said.
yeah,
That's well said.
well-
Thank you, Mark.
I appreciate your comments. My only rebuttal is the $500 or $700 would have been $1,600 or $1,800 if the
That
people on
sounds
the,
great, but I
if
just
the people on the dais
Yeah,
did not
is-
did not do what they did. I understand your point.
I didn't get to vote.
I understand your point.
Can I ask one
You
question?
voted for the people on the dais though. You did.
Right, and on this one, I would like to make this vote for the resident.
I
And
understand that and I hear
You
that.
appreciate that, right?
I appreciate your sentiment that you want to get the residents to vote for that. I personally disagree. I don't think that 51% of the population should burden 49% of the population with additional tax. But I understand.
And
your point.
fortunately, I don't have to worry about you. I'm just trying to get the 4 on either side.
I understand that.
I know where you-
I understand that.
I know I got a couple in my pocket.
I'm a taxpayer too. I'm a
I get
taxpayer.
caught.
I'm a taxpayer too. That's true.
Mark, I have a question for
Burden
you.
them with each of us.
Hey,
So we're burdening them with us.
I just want to
You
ask
know
a
what I
question.
mean? Like,
Mark, so
They can
the penny came in at whatever, 150 grand, right?
Nancy said the penny
Sure.
was-
The penny was higher.
Penny was 276.
Yeah.
All right, what's the half penny? Just pick an arbitrary number.
No, let's be.
Okay, half penny's 132 grand, 137. So Mark, my question to you is,
Just for the record, half penny was 137,660,
perfect.
penny was 275,321.
All right, so,
Go to a quarter penny.
so you can't, you can only go to a half.
Thinks that it-
So let's say they, half all that 136. If the borough had 136,000 that it could commit every year, are you for the open space back?
Yeah,
So
but I would like it ring fenced.
well, hang on, T for timeout. So irrespective of how much money we put in the budget towards it, you're still worth the open space tax to add more. Right? Because what I wanna discern here is I wanna discern whether we're for it, and you heard everybody is here for it, right? So your approach, right, was, hey, start small, get the process, iron out the kinks, right?
Yeah,
Great, half penny.
I wish it could go a quarter penny, to be honest.
Sure, right, but half penny, 136. So if the borough committed, right, to $136,000 and didn't have an open space tax and was able to start small and start figuring out how to do a quote unquote better job, and right, that's subjective if we're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Do you still vote for the open space tax?
Yeah, but I just want to change your language a little bit. It's not the borough, it's the residents of the borough. That's the big distinction that I'm frustrated with here. You guys aren't making the decision.
Yeah,
It's the residents.
yeah.
So where's the limit? Is there a limit? I mean, I know you probably can't answer that question now, but theoretically, where is the limit? What if the borough could come up with $500,000? Would you still want the open space tax?
Where's the borough gonna come up with $500,000?
Well, it's just hypothetically, where is it the dollar amount you're after, or is it the tax that you want?
What's the dollar?
Okay, so to his point, if we can come up with a dollar amount, then would you not want the open space tax?
Yes, I would not want the open space tax if you can come up with a dollar amount, but you'd have to keep coming up with that every year. That's a burden on you guys.
And we haven't come up with a historic.
But-
We have
But I appreciate, Mark, real quick,
That's helpful.
I super appreciate that, right? Because
Yes.
right there,
Totally.
to me, is beautiful, right? It's like, hey,
Oh, tax just for tax? I don't want to.
no, but the point is that we are all in violent agreement that there needs to be a mechanism in place to solve the gap that exists. The question is what is that mechanism? Right? So thank you for being honest and I
And
appreciate it.
finally, what you have in this town that you don't have, you have in very few other towns.
Mark Olson.
No, you have volunteers
Yeah.
that
totally.
reduce your costs so
Yes.
low,
I
but
agree.
don't burn your volunteers out.
100%.
You have
Right.
Great
Yeah.
volunteers, we can get more, just get a little bit of money.
100%.
Can I
Appreciate it, Mark.
Can I just say something to what you said? You said that you don't think that 51% of the population should burden the other 49%, but it's everyone's legal right to vote. So if they want to not be burdened by a decision, they can then vote. So I don't think that's a fair way to say, put forth anything, like you're burdening the 49%.
That's the minimum vote too.
Yeah, so they vote like, they have a right to vote.
You're taking 51%, and if you're in that minority, you have no opportunity to
You have
stop
the
you from
opportunity
being
to
additionally
vote.
taxed.
You have the opportunity to vote. That's your opportunity.
They voted for us to make the
10%.
decisions. We
But
represent our
we're
community.
not giving, okay.
I
think we're seeing this wrong.
I guess my rebuttal to you, Michael, is why don't we just have a vote for every single decision we have up here? Well, what's the purpose of us making decisions up here if we can just crowdsource every decision we make? Why are we even making a decision tonight on Love Where You Live Day and the April 27th request when we can go to the entire community and ask them whether we should have Love Where You Live Day in McCarter Park?
Well, one is a tax, the others are not.
Yeah.
We have limits on our taxing authority, as it should be.
Mhm.
That's an incredibly important power that's been granted to this body, this council,
Mhm.
and we cannot abuse it. The open
Yeah.
space tax is a referendum for a good reason, in principle, it's the people's choice. So if I've heard anything tonight, it's that Fairhaven, at least the people in this room, are interested in having the right to vote
Yes.
on an open space tax.
Should we put?
And in the meantime,
Sorry.
we'll do some homework, and I'd like to continue the
Teresa,
discussion.
can I just?
Should we also put,
Waiting
Hang on.
patiently over here.
should we also put a
That is
referendum
true, Kristen. You have
up
a
in the same election on whether to put turf fields at the community center and tax a residence for them?
No.
Why not?
Because that's not.
Because that's not what you're looking for? Oh, it's expensive. It's an additional tax for a resident. Should we put it, why don't we let the residents decide?
We're talking about maintenance on what we have.
Let's let the residents decide.
Maintenance.
Let's let the residents
Can
decide.
we go back to Kristen?
I just want one last point, just to bring this home for me anyway, hopefully everybody else, because we can move on, but I just want to be clear, we're all interested in continuing the conversation. I think it's our obligation as governing body members to make a big decision like this when we have more information rather than less. That's all.
I think we all agree.
Okay, so then we don't have all that information, so I think we move on and we continue the conversation, right? Nobody's saying, I don't think, let's shut the door on this idea altogether.
Allison, is there anyone else? Public?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I thought we should have the tax because it's very important. I've seen a lot of places around the town that have legitimate safety issues because of not enough funding. Like, from the 21, Fairhaven Road, there's nothing stopping people from just entering the property. And people have, and that's probably just not safe inside of that house, and people have entered the house there. And for like, there's been the trails inside of Fairhaven Natural Area, they're like all bumpy and not bikeable at all anymore. And McCarter Pond is also an issue. And when you see like I've seen deer carcasses just sitting in the middle of a Fairhaven Natural Area. It's a lot of land you gotta deal with. And you're probably not gonna be able to deal with all of it, but at least something needs to have some funding.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's your name and address?
It's me, 114, what's
So,
her?
You were a
remember mayor for the day?
Thank you all.
He goes in for,
All right, we have, I think one more.
You got two more.
yes. Susan.
Susan O'Brien, 875 River Road. So let's not call it an open space tax, since that seems to convey the wrong message. Let's call it something like a parks tax, and people will understand better. So write that down.
Thank you. Fine.
Bonnie Torcivia, 115 Batten. I am, of course, in favor of supporting our open spaces. I think one of our biggest problems everywhere is maintenance. And we need to take that a little more seriously. And I just attended a shade tree meeting down in Manasquan. And the mayor came to the meeting. It was a bunch of shade tree commissioners. And he came to answer questions before the council meeting. And I asked him if he had an open space tax. And he said, yes, we do. We got it back in 2004. We used to buy a big piece of property, preserve it. We just finished paying that off. And now we're gonna work on some other projects in town. And he said, I said, who is on this committee that decides how you use this money? And he said, oh, we have representatives from all different commissions, committees, people in town, there's a council representative, so it would be like a McCarter Pond person, a short, a natural area, it would be all the open space, residents that are involved in these that would decide how this money would be used, and I just think as Mark said, you could start small. The reason all these towns keep increasing it is because they're realizing how effective it is, I think. I don't think this is a forced thing that's automatically
they're
going up. I think it is the residents that keep saying, yes, this is working, we're preserving our open space, we're maintaining things. And, if nothing else, we're realizing with all this development coming in New Jersey that it really is important to keep our open spaces beautiful. For mental health, for our every other kind of health. And so I would love to see it come to the residents, and I do think it is your job to provide all the facts, all the different taxes, and make sure that the residents are educated so that they can make good decisions, that they won't regret because they said, oh, well, I didn't know. But I do think that the residents want to see this, and I think it is up to them. Really.
And I would, the only thing I counter with you is, if it were ever to be on the ballot, I would definitely push for it to be on the same year as a presidential ballot. Just because that's when you get the most people out to make a decision like that, personally. That's my thought.
Okay. I just have one other question, totally unrelated. But the proclamation for the 250th year celebration was on the agenda, which I was very excited because I thought we should start planning for this.
It's not on the agenda, so this isn't a comment for public.
I think it'd do good.
It's not, yeah, good as borough.
So stick around.
Thank you. Allison?
We have one hand up
Sure.
from iPhone. I'm sure who that is. You can have me.
iPhone, please state your name and address for the record.
Hey, good evening. It's Wilson Rodriguez, 18 Allen Street. Regarding the DPW, I don't know if this is the appropriate moment or later on.
What is it regarding? What about the DPW though?
Just some few shout outs and then maybe just acknowledging some items that we'd like to continue the open engagement.
That would be for good of the borough. Yeah.
Got it.
Stay online, we'll be back.
Thank you.
Hopefully not too long. All right, thank you. All right, that's it, Allison. Moving along, approval of minutes, February 12th, 2025, regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, might I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul.
Yes.
Pimaselli.
Oh, she stepped out.
She just- Hodge.
Yes.
La Barbera.
Affirmative.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're moving along to new business. Anyone have any old business? No. Moving along to new business, consent agenda resolutions 2025-76 through 2025-89. Does anyone want to comment on anything or?
Mayor, can I just give
Yes.
some background on 2025-79? I had a couple residents reach out. I just want to set the record straight. So this is the award contract for improvements to Maple Avenue, right? This was the off-site improvements. I'm gonna a couple points. Our original cost estimate for this was $250. If the governing body recalls, we added this as an alternate with the DPW bid. That came back at $457,000. We ultimately rejected it due to the price. Our director of engineering, Rich, put it back out. And the revised plan brought it in at $197,000. So 21% under the cost estimate, 57% under alternate A. From a sidewalk perspective, the sidewalks are a continuation of the pedestrian improvements within the neighborhood, allowing linkage between Third and Hendrickson. Sidewalks were already installed on Third, including the corner lot on Maple, sidewalks in Hendrickson, and a few properties on Maple already. Full alignment with the ATP. There's been questions on the pre-existing front yard setbacks. All work is within the borough's right of way. Pre-existing front yard setbacks will be minimally affected since much of the work area is non-compliant asphalt that was added in certain areas. New curb, driveway, sidewalk, topsoil and sod there will be a decrease in impervious. We want to make sure that this is not confused with the landscaping plan on Maple Avenue, right? Two different things. So as part of the DPW project, a cohesive landscaping plan was addressed. So that's Maple Avenue, Allen Street, Third Street. As the governing body recalls, there were an unforeseen circumstances where many trees have what's called girdling. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it strangles the tree and it's not healthy for the tree. Long story short, new plan was created. We're waiting for the general contractor to come back with what the potential change order is based on the updated plan. Once that's done, we'll be in a better position to address that. So just want to take a quick moment, Mayor. The other thing too, actually, I'll come back when Wilson responds and bring that up later. So discernment between off-site Maple Avenue improvements and the Maple Avenue landscaping specific to the DPW. The Maple Avenue project, again, Rich put it back out to bid after we collectively made the decision to do so based on the price. And the price came in 21% under the original cost estimate, 57% under what it came in as alternate A under the DPW.
It's helpful, Joe, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone want to separate anything from the consent agenda? Anyone have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul,
Yes.
Ms. Sally,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Josh,
yes.
Barbara,
Affirmative.
also.
Yes.
Thank you. Department reports, 2023 year end. Is that right? Zoning board annual report?
Yeah.
January 2025, tax collector, municipal court, police department. You guys are good voting all at once? on
So
that?
just a quick plug, Mayor, the zoning board annual report is a bear to do. So I don't know who on the zoning board did it, but kudos and
I
great job.
can address that. Frank Forte and company, I know they're.
Awesome.
Yeah, and, I was the liaison that year. I know you're, Brian, doing it this year. The report is worth a little bit more in-depth review this year. They aggregated some year over year. I think that in fact that's going, we're gonna get more of that.
Good.
But, it's worth taking a minute, especially because it's addressing the things that may ultimately come before this body for modification, right? Obviously, we have residents going for the zoning board for recurring conditions that are not necessarily, it should maybe meet the threshold of a zoning board application. There might be tweaks in the land use law that could be considered by this body. Not that I know of anybody, any that are coming right now, but if the land use committee takes that up, that would be the way here.
But one thing just to add real quick, I attended that meeting when they did the presentation. It was at the amount of time they put into it, the presentation was absolutely excellent. So thank you for the effort into it.
I'll make a motion to approve with a thank you, both the ZBA report and the January 2025.
I'm supposed to ask you.
Oh, sorry.
There's a motion.
Sorry, Mayor.
Wait, am I allowed to ask a question? real quick?
Sure.
So,
Yeah, because we didn't follow right.
it seemed like there was an actionable item though, that they were making a recommendation. Is that something we need to talk about? What was it? It was
Where?
having the group,
The zoning board?
no, yeah, it was,
All we're voting on now is to accept the report.
no, there was a list of actions, so I'm just wondering.
That could be a separate discussion, but right now we're just voting to
Okay.
accept the report.
And then
That's what I touched on.
Okay.
Because those fall within this body's jurisdiction.
So, does anyone have a motion with a thank you perhaps?
Motion with a huge thank you.
Yeah, double, thank you.
Double.
Oh, I also wanted to thank Chief, because we asked for some specific tracking items in his police report, and we got that, so thank you.
Kind of interesting.
Does everyone agree on this motion?
With a huge double a second?
Huge double, and I said greatness tonight.
Are you all in agreement on the motion?
Yes.
Is anyone opposed? Go to the borough. Go to the borough. Go to the borough.
Wilson Rodriguez, actually.
Wilson.
But it was in person first.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, hello.
Wait, Wilson, hold on. We're not there yet, Wilson. We'll come back to you. Fine.
Bonnie Torcivia, 115 Baton Road. As I said, the proclamation saying that we were going to celebrate our 250th birthday next summer, was on the agenda, and then it came off. And I was really looking forward to it, having lived through the last one 50 years ago. You know, it's a big deal. I remember all the parades in town and, just events surrounding it. I mean, Monmouth, our town is right at the center of Monmouth County, all the battles and everything. So anyway, I'm just hoping that we are gonna celebrate it.
We anticipate full support
Of what?
of the 250th celebration.
We can put a resolution on a future, meeting agenda, like, a meeting maybe in the future, if not now.
I mean, I know that Long Branch
Yes.
did, what did
Well,
you?
it's the resolution, so they've asked all the different municipalities to sign a resolution saying we're in support and we're gonna be part of the 250th anniversary. So, I don't know the numbers, many municipalities are doing it, and it's just saying we're committed to it. We're committed to celebrating it, and it's not asking us for any money. But what a lot of towns are doing and what we are doing in Long Branch is there's a van that goes around that has all like the history of the Revolutionary War and Monmouth County's history. So the van will go to different places. So there's thoughts of maybe having the van at Fairhaven Day. I know there was like some talk about doing a bike parade. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do. But I love the idea of a bike parade. So they are asking for a resolution. I support putting it on I don't know. I support doing the resolution.
To answer your question, the resolution's a lot of fluff. There's only one part of it that I think would be advantageous for us to actually pass as a resolution. I think it's number 2, which establishes a committee basically to work on the 250th celebration. And I think my policy has been pretty clear for the last 3 years, how I feel about proclamations that aren't specifically Fairhaven centric. That's all it's about. There's nothing in that resolution that I disagree with, or I think that it's just about being consistent now, in the past, and in the future. So
And so we
full
can,
support for everything regarding 250th celebration.
That we're going to have.
Well, I think we should vote on it.
Yes.
I think the council should have a right to vote on it. I don't see why
Make a
not.
motion.
I mean.
But isn't the
want us
process
to do it
workshop and
now?
then
Yeah,
resolution?
Sure.
So I would like to make
That's
a
fine.
resolution, or what do I have to do?
We could workshop it.
So I don't know the official way, but I'd like to have a resolution to get it as a workshop on the agenda.
No, you can vote on it right now if you really want to. You can make a motion to vote on the resolution. You guys all had it in your packets.
You took it off, so they don't have the information to understand as
It was-
depth about what it is.
It was in all your packets, the resolution.
I have it.
You've had it since
Yeah,
Thursday.
I have it.
So if you want to vote on the resolution, just make a motion. I just, as
Yeah, but
mayor, I've been
I
pretty
feel like
consistent.
you've made it very clear that you don't agree with it because you don't think it's Fairhaven focused. I've made it too clear to you. We've had an open conversation that I don't think
I
it's
just don't like
necessarily.
fluffy resolutions and proclamations. They
Yeah,
don't
it's not
achieve
funny.
anything.
The whole Monmouth County is basically all supporting it. This is an initiative by our Monmouth County commissioners who are very supportive of our town. They've
And we're
supported,
supportive of them.
and if they're asking us to do this, and you may think it's fluff, but we do a lot of fluffy things here. Why wouldn't we just support this? There's no downside to it.
I don't know where.
And now
If you'd like to make a motion to pass the resolution, just make
Well,
the
I would like
motion,
to
Michael.
talk
It says
about it.
there's
Okay.
grandstanding going on. Just make the motion.
Rants.
We're fine. I have no objection to the content. I don't think anyone else does. We're wasting time, and that's what I don't want to do. That's why I don't want to put these on the
But
agenda.
if you just
Do you wanna
kept
make
it
a
motion, sure, I'll make a motion.
So
I would
someone
like
want
to make a
second?
motion to pass the resolution for the 250th anniversary.
Is there a
This is like-
second?
this is like RSVP to the party.
Yeah,
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes?
Demaseli,
yes.
Poe,
No.
Koch,
Yes.
Rivera,
So I want to preface my vote that I am in full support of the 250, but I am against that we are not following the process of workshopping and then resolution, and I don't think it, I'm just.
But he's made it so we can't do it. He's made it so we can't have that process.
I'm
I don't know what to tell
I'm
you.
happy to workshop it.
You're forcing me to do it because you won't let us workshop it. You won't let me get it on the agenda to workshop it.
Thanks.
abstained by Councilman Rivera, and then Councilman Olson.
No,
So but we can achieve the same by not having a resolution and being consistent in our thought process around resolutions.
Consistent
I
in
think we
Josh's
do.
thought process.
No, I mean, let's go back to all the other resolutions that we talked about that could have opened up the door. Who's to say that this whole thing could open up a can of worms? Point being, if we can achieve the same thing, resolution or not resolution, by supporting our country, let's do it.
Yeah, but we're not
Why-
supporting our commissioners. And just to like, I would like to put this out there. I'm the only sitting Democrat on this council. And the commissioners are all Republicans. They're asking us to do it, and I want to support them because I think it's important
This
that we
isn't a political
support.
decision, Michael.
But I'm just saying, that's why it's so ridiculous.
If anything, that supports that we're not being political and politically driven because they're the same party as ours, which is not what we do here. We're doing what's best for the borough of Fairhaven, and we're sitting here having an argument about a resolution that I'm trying to find here that states like that.
We could have just
There's
done
one, but why? Why are we just doing things? There's a purpose here. We're trying to be efficient for our taxpayers, for our residents. Why would we just do things just because they do them in Long Branch,
So
or
you
just
took
because the
the time
county
to
asks them to?
take all
So
of the-
anytime the state tells us to do something, we're just gonna do it because they asked us to do it?
No, this is.
No.
All right, so then what are we talking about here?
Okay, I think that for the residents, we won't have this conversation, but this is,
Whereas New Jersey played a significant role during the American Revolution when it saw more battles and skirmishes and all those things. and was truly the cause- But we're still supporting the 250th celebration in full. It was the first thing I said.
so you'd rather monetarily spend residents' money when we can, at a minimum, do this. We could have just literally had it on here, voted for it.
Borough Council authorizes the appointment of a committee to develop a plan for this commemoration that will coordinate with the federal, state, and county celebration committees and will promote the maximum involvement of our residents, neighbors, businesses, schools, historical and civics organizations, and institutions of commemorations. That's the only thing on here that we need to pass. That's it, to get it going. We don't need any of the rest of this fluff at all.
We'll vote on it with those exceptions.
Wait,
The fluff is fine.
hold on one second.
Whereas Governor Phil Murphy and the New Jersey State Legislature in 2018 authorized this is.
Hold on one second.
Three voted in favor, 2 no, and abstention. It passes.
Okay, so let's move on. We're good. Jeez. All right, next up.
Got more hands there.
Yes, wait, Susan, then Katie.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Oh, Susan O'Brien, 875 River Road. Was the bulkhead at the end of Grange ever replaced?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's just to give you a little context on that, we had to work with an easement with, one of the homeowners there. That was on, how many council meetings ago was that, Al?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, And that was the holdup. We've already spoken with the contractor. The contractor's at another site. As soon as they're done, they'll be over there for the materials, have it delivered, and we're beginning.
Okay. And secondly, did we get the grant money for the community center?
Or the actual check, you mean?
Did
We have not received that yet.
Cash is not in the account.
We still anticipate receiving it. But
Hold your breath.
I wouldn't say that, but we understand why you're asking the question and we're keeping our eye on it.
And Susan, just for context, I have followed up with the congressman's office several times over, and they are prepared, if for some reason those funds were to be impounded, they are prepared to make sure that they are released.
Yeah, how are they gonna do that?
Because it's congressional money. And that was what.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to matter.
I'm here wearing a couple hats. I'm on the, oh, I'm sorry. I wear a hat. Katie Persora, 126 Lexington. The hats I'm wearing are, I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission, of course, and I'm on the Historic Association. And I also had the honor of spending the day with the folks at this chapel yesterday. And who were asking me about the police station.
And when they asked me about the police station, there was tremendous fear, if I can not exaggerate, that there's no plan for what's going to be done to celebrate the history, and I know we've talked about it here. The word demolition is showing up on Facebook now, and because, oh, the other hat I wear is I administer the Fairhaven page, and I'm getting comments privately and some publicly, where you're behind the 8 ball on the dialogue that's out there. They're demolishing it. What's the plan for the education? I went to my phone and I realized it was July 24th, 23, a year and a half ago, when Darrell Breckenridge came up. And I don't use this word with him lightly, plaintively.
Yeah.
He doesn't get emotional about things. You know Darrell. You know your dad. And he said, please have a plan. And we're now in 2025. And what I don't want to happen is, oh, the demolition is happening next month. What's our plan? We'll have,
Yeah.
well, and I know you were great when you answered the questions. And the 3 areas that I'm looking for are, and at the HPC tomorrow night, we'll talk about this as well, are A, before it's taken down, some sort of thing that happens outside in the safe area. I'm gonna volunteer Steve Hiller's front yard, some sort of event where folks can look at the building before it goes down, can say some things about it. A simple something, I don't know what that is. The actual plaque and all that, which you have talked about, that goes up there.
There was just an email between
Oh,
Councilman
yeah.
Barry regarding that.
So-
I was waiting for.
Oh, I know, and I know you're having emails, I know there are discussions, but I think there just needs to be, even if it's, I'm not gonna say 5 bullet points, even if there are a few bullet points, to the public saying, it's coming down this year, we're gonna have a 3-pronged approach to celebrating the history, something before it goes down, something physical, ongoing education, boom, done. Something that educates folks to know there's a plan. Because we know there's a lot of great conversations going on, including myself and with other people, and I feel like the conversations are just conversations, it's not an actual plan yet.
So I'm gonna hand this to Drew in a
Yeah.
sec. The part piece that I'm gonna touch on is the demolition. When we originally had the discussion, like, as far as letting the community know that that part is happening, we're gonna be over communicative, because we're worried about the dust and all the stuff going in the air. Let everyone know the date it's happening, steer clear of the area. As far as the historical,
Sorry, misunderstood, I know you're gonna communicate about that, I'm talking about,
the historical
The
side,
historical part.
Drew's gonna take
Yeah.
that, yes.
And I'm just caught a little off guard because I was texting with the Reverend Wright Smith over the weekend and whatnot, so I'm just caught off a little guard.
okay,
But so the plan for, let's start with Fish Chapel, right, the parking lot, right? Because we have the long-term agreement with Fish Chapel and we have an easement, right? And we've been communicating both with the board of Fish Chapel, who then communicate up to the trustees who oversee Fish Chapel and company, right? And so we have the plan that was briefed here. It was briefed with the Reverend with what's gonna happen with the parking lot and all of that and all the trustees, and that's plan is set in motion.
you know that,
Okay, great. Then when we get to the historic aspects of it, right, we've been in touch with the HPC on saving the window.
I know that.
Okay, because.
And the lights, right?
And then the lights, right? So you know this, right? So
I know those
obviously
are
it's
the
been.
things I'm addressing.
Okay, then we get to commemorating what the site is, and the Reverend just passed over the photographs and the content for the memorial that's gonna be erected outside of the new PD location. And then the Reverend is also gonna be participating in the efforts when everything's opened up at the site.
Correct, so are we talking 2025?
And by Q2, this is done,
Q2,
end of
So-
June.
okay. What I'm asking is, I think you're on the right path. I think in addition to all those things that we've mentioned, before it's taken down, before it's physically, before the wrecking ball hits it. And I can talk to the HBC, can even talk about how to talk to everyone about that, some sort of thing, event,
gathering?
discussion,
Before it gets-
gathering.
For the site or for the
At
building?
the site.
Okay,
before it
because the
goes
building burned down in 26, right, and then was rebuilt.
down. Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about a site commemoration. I mean, if the governing body's on board with it, I
Some
think-
sort of thing to
I'll
honor.
probably work with the Reverend just to do.
I don't think I can- I don't think I can,
And,
I don't
you
think
know,
I can overstate.
bring a
the-
historian.
People have
also.
accepted that it's coming down.
Check, check.
They've accepted.
Can I just work with you on it? How's that?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Send me an email and we'll get
I
it set
just
up.
can't overstate the visceral reaction folks will have when it comes down.
Totally get it.
There's some angst.
Check. So let's work together.
We can ease it.
100%. Send me an email. Let's work together. We'll figure out a plan.
And we're meeting tomorrow night. and we'll do all
Fantastic.
that.
Just
Love
copy
it.
me while liaise. with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
who liaises with?
Thank you.
Are you? Oh, no, I mean.
That's really good, like ground truth, right? Especially as we.
Mark, you're adding layers.
It's cold. It's 70.
Mark Wilson, 220 Cambridge Avenue, we're doing this volunteer day on Sunday on Third Street Trail for 3 hours. And I just want
That's
that,
Sunday?
this coming Sunday. And I don't have a lot of experience dealing with borough administrators. However, the current borough administrator is so good at customer service. He's so good. As a volunteer, it is a breath of fresh air. So whoever, if you were involved with that, Josh, thank you very much. Chris York is Aces Over Kings. Thank you very much.
Can we get out,
Yes,
can we get out and nixle something out?
Yeah, we're gonna
Third
send-
Street Trail, would that be helpful?
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we're also gonna send something out.
We didn't
morning
do,
of-
we didn't do a nixle though, did we?
No,
No.
Buzz.
Yeah, but we're gonna send something out Friday, and also send something out in the morning, though, just.
Let's try a
That's
nixle.
really something to do.
Try a nixle. Anyone else?
Employee of the month.
Fine, Betsy's got something.
The Fairhaven Garden Club had a speaker last month, and I don't know if you were at the meeting or not, Tracy. But he was there to talk about birding, and at the end of the meeting, he went over to the Harding Bird Sanctuary with members of the Garden Club. Prior to that, everyone thought there were no birds there, that it was just void of birds, partly due to the fact that the deer have eaten the entire understory. However, when he went over there, he actually identified 20 different species of birds, which is pretty cool. Birds that we didn't even know existed there. And he also suggested an app called Merlin Bird ID, which is run by Cornell, where you can take your phone into anywhere, into the woods, and identify different birdings.
Can you spell it?
Merlin like the wizard.
MRLIN.
Well,
So-
that is a
We're comfortable.
conversation switcheroo. That's a totally different story.
I know, but
I know.
I think
I love it.
it's
Can
great for the
can we
bird
use
sanctuary.
open space money to buy birds to populate the Harding Bird Sanctuary?
Sure. No, but we need to plant grasses for food, for
Yeah.
the birds.
Were there any like new species or were they all known species?
There-
I'm not trying to. be
He
funny.
identified 20 known
That he
But
species.
you can check the ERS for a list of the
And maybe we
birds that
can
are.
promote some of that information, so let's talk.
Yeah.
locations.
Somebody bird watching today, months.
Anyone else with a, go to the borough?
Just want to call out
Wait a
that
second.
he's put a blazer on
Hold on.
and it's no longer, this is iPhone. guy.
Allison, is he also still,
No.
no?
dropped off.
iPhone is dropped off?
Wilson Rodriguez, Allen Street, thank you. I just want to start off with, thank you to the council, particularly Drew, the borough administrator, DPW, for engaging the neighborhood surrounding DPW. We look forward to continue working with you. I know recently Drew hosted a meeting with the community. I wasn't there. Thank you for picking a day that I couldn't make it.
So I didn't know.
But, no, thank you. Look, we are optimistic. We keep working with each other, and to provide you feedback, particularly with like the landscaping, proposals and improvements to the recycling area. We appreciate the changes already implemented, particularly those with like the PD, locking and unlocking the door, et cetera. And also updates to the weekly Borough Buzz. I know there's a lot of updates on there. I think a lot of people don't read that unfortunately, but it's a good start. Like I mentioned, we like to keep the engagement active because the reality is the cardboard volume will only increase and it's only gonna get worse. It's gonna definitely compound over time, and unfortunately, eliminating the bi-weekly recycling pickup is probably contributing to this. We're all aware of it. It's a moot point at this point, but we're just optimistic that our feedback will be considered, such as some ideas that Joe and I have been discussing and the folks surrounding the community there. Our intention is not to spend additional money. I know that's a touching point with the budget, et cetera. Our goal is to optimize the flow of the area and particularly the functionality. Because right now, when the recycling area reaches its peak, the cardboard area spews right into the sidewalk, right onto the street. You have vehicles driving recklessly down the street, doing crazy K and or U-turns. And even worse, playing a game of chicken, driving against each other just to drop off a small Amazon parcel, just to put in perspective. And so if we could just come up with a way to maybe improve that safety factor, that functionality, that would be awesome. So thank you, Drew. Thank you all.
I have a few sentences.
Sure, absolutely.
No, it's on attention.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So real quick, Wilson, right? So everybody's on the same page with the recycling center specific to that. We expanded the area, right? So as the DPW site work concludes, right, we added that 40-foot slab. Another key thing that we're making a change, right, based on all the resident engagement is the hours of the DPW are gonna be updated to when it's manned. So Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 3:30, 7 to 3:30. And then Saturday, resolution 2025-81 here is that there's an actual part-time DPW worker there on Saturdays. Part of the.
At the recycling center.
At the recycling center and inclusive of driving on site on Saturdays and working with OEM and all that. So all of that operational management is forthcoming. We're kind of revealing it maybe a little bit too ahead of time, but since you raised it and you guys showed up, especially after being home. So that's Saturday. Sunday it's closed. The gate is auto locking, right? So that gate will always be shut. It will automatically open, meaning you can open it between the hours, and then after the hours, it automatically closes. You have the cameras coming in. And then the other piece, Chris, do you want to speak to the zoning and code enforcement officer coming in?
Yes, we're waiting to get a just acceptance. We created a new position here in town for a deputy zoning officer and code enforcement officer, be full-time Monday through Friday. We combined both positions together, and they'll be following up on a lot of those types of issues as well. So 30% of this person's work will be code enforcement, the other 70% will be zoning. So a lot of these issues we have. And we're also updating the ordinance as well for the recycling center. So we do have people that are, dumping after hours or throwing, that we can actually issue them summonses, issue warning letters, summonses, and we have a sign going up as well, that dumping after hours, you're gonna face prosecution in accordance with the ordinance.
And I want to highlight that because the way the current ordinance is written, the police actually aren't in a position to enforce it. So the ordinance changes that are coming to align with the operational management will fix that so that summonses can be issued and whatnot. So just want to kind of give you the updates as we get closer. We'll give more obviously here into the public, but.
And we just ordered new signage today as well, which reflect the new hours and also reflect about, dumping after hours and prosecution.
Well, also, I spoke with Councilman DiMichelli. I might socialize this with all of you about the possibility of maybe one Saturday, we might each take an hour there just to feel it and see it for ourselves.
Wow.
Listen, I'll do 2 hours. Listen, I'll do 2 hours if I need to. Because I've seen the pictures and I understand that the change in recycling also is probably definitely affected the traffic flow there. So we'll figure it out.
I hope you hear that we all feel this pain. We know, we can see it, sense it, we hear it from other people. We've been aware for a while and taken steps. I hope that's what you're hearing, because you do such a fine job of communicating on behalf of your neighborhood. So I just want to thank you for that, but it has translated into action and response.
No, thank you. I mean, obviously, we have full support of the neighborhood, right, and Drew, so thank you. I did want to comment on one thing, and particularly the hours. The reckless driving gets worse or compounded during the times when Third Street is closed.
Check.
So 7:30 to 8:30, you have people, first of all, you have the people that don't care and will drive onto Third Street when the bicyclists are going up and down. And then you have the people that care, but but then have to do the reckless U-turns
Yeah.
while kids are going down, up and down Allen, and other cars are driving. So,
Right.
and then it happens on the back end
Right.
between 2:45 and
3:15 or whatever.
3:30, I think it is.
Yeah.
So just keep it, those hours are also concerning. I don't know what the solution
And
is.
Wilson, we have the chief here tonight,
Yeah.
chief here in the back, you know, you probably have patrols check that area during those times.
Yeah, and that's part of.
But more so, fine, you eliminate the people going on to Third Street, which is probably more important, right, the kids? But then, second to that is the reckless driving on Allen.
Totally. And that's why it's a bit premature just to give that, because we do have to do coordination with the chief, we do have to do coordination with Nick, right? We have to create operational flows. But I think that gut check reaction, right, to the beginning and the end of those hours coincided with Third Street is something we have to take into account. Make sure we're not pushing a problem somewhere else or making a problem somewhere else, right? Yeah, it's a great point, Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go to the borough? I have one thing before I go to, Allison. At the communications meeting, we had a discussion. Obviously, we haven't had committee reports for a while, but we were talking about a new way of potentially informing all of us and communicating. If you take notes at a committee meeting and you want to get them, I'm just reinforcing this, you want to get them to Allison. We can get them into the weekly packet at the end of the week. So when you receive that packet, it has the notes from the. That's the council packet. You get that email.
Oh,
You
the
get every single week,
correspondence,
correspondence, yeah. So that it'll help us be engaged on what's going on.
But if like for recreation, DJ does a report after, I could get like, I don't, like some of the committees already
We
do
can put that report in
Yeah,
the, in
so
the
just take
packet
like
as
some
well.
of, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but if there's a committee.
See how that goes?
Yeah.
I think
You know,
that's
if we need
great.
more than that, we'll figure it out, right?
I have Michael's report, it just came Friday evening after the.
Yeah.
So it'll go in the next one.
Communications is gonna be in there.
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
We have Mrs. Blazer.
All right. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. It's been a long evening. I think we can all agree that Fairhaven is not getting any larger. But we keep getting more people administering things in town. And I can't understand why that is. If everybody's doing their job and what is legislated is enforced, we should not have this problem. We have a tiny, tiny town. And I would like to see us cut back as much as we can rather than keeping adding people.
You want us to get rid of the people?
I think she's
Are
talking
you
about the
staff?
zoning officer, I think. Is that coming from the zoning
Yeah,
officer?
Yes, I don't, if our zoning officer is doing a good, organized, efficient job, why does he need an assistant? The town is not that big.
No, I can answer it.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to give you an idea, that was actually not, it's not a new position. We had a code enforcement officer that worked for us. He resigned the end of last year. That was Brock Siebert. He got new employment. He was unable to work. We also had a zoning secretary who also worked in that office, who left prior to me being hired here. So that was an open position as well. Rather than rehire a code enforcement officer and rehire another secretary of the zoning office, we combined both positions together with the existing salary as budgeted. Actually, it's a little bit less than what we were paying out before. So it's actually not a new position. It is a new position, yes, but we're combining two people into one with the money that we already had budgeted, if that makes sense, Ruth.
I was under the impression that Sheila worked for both the planning board and the zoning board.
No, Sheila is a autonomous employee for the planning board.
Aha.
Land use, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I'm more efficient than you folks are. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ruth. Well, Allison? That's all I have. All right. With that being said, we are gonna move to executive session. Formal action being taken? No formal action is being taken. The time is 10:01 PM. Do I have a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, are we on?
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 11:19?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Give us.
Good night, Fairhaven.
Josh, do you have 2 minutes?